every platform, everywhere. All right, so Facebook should see us now.
Yep, I just got the notification. Here we are.
Look at that. All right, so we'll make sure that YouTube and Twitch are getting data sent. Oh, Paul just messaged me. Let me know when you're live.
Well, here we are.
And here we are. All right, so we're live on Facebook, and it's sending data to everything else. So let's take a peek, see. Well, it says it's sending data, so it'll catch up. All right, so
Sweet.
we're just gonna go. We're just gonna make it happen. We're just gonna
Let's do this. Make this thing happen.
We're just gonna go and see. Oh, I guess I got to tag Paul.
Okay.
All right, so good evening, everybody. It is Thursday night. It is 9:08 because I'm a slacker and trying to get Colin's video all set up. But
He's not slack. Not a slacker. That's how this works usually. Usually takes us 15 minutes for it not to be that my face is pixelated and overly zoomed.
Shot all over the place. Yeah, so as you are joining us, wherever you're at, whether you're on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook, welcome. You're probably going to see this after the fact because right now we literally have nobody watching. So we will have somebody watching here momentarily because we've got people that are messaging me about when we're going live. So good evening. Welcome to the Roundtable. It is the 25th of July, 2019. Training camp is in full effect. But on a more important note, we're reunited, and it feels so good. Colin, welcome back, brother. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, man?
I'm living the proverbial dream. It's a Thursday night. We get to talk fantasy football, and we get our boy Paul on here. We were just talking about you, Paul.
Yeah, we were.
Calvin Ridley.
Don't worry about what we were talking about.
Robert Woods.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
So let me start with the spiels for those of you that are going to watch us at some point. Oh, we got more people already. So rotoheat.com. Our boy Sully's been updating like crazy today. But all of us jump on there and post articles. There's a lot of guys that are giving content to RotoHeat. Make sure you do the subscription. It's only like $3 a year, and you're getting ADP. We are constantly mock drafting and getting all sorts of ADP, and we got even more stuff coming. I'm working on some IDP statistical type stuff, and we want to get some Devi stuff onto there here shortly. We're going to start that up. So rotoheat.com. Keep it locked there. You can find us on Facebook under RotoHeat. We're adding people every day. Like I'm constantly going in and approving dudes that are joining, or females, whomever. We're not sexist. Anybody can play fantasy football, and everybody does. So, Chris, what's up, brother? Unfortunately, you're not on here with me tonight, so I just get to talk to you in the chat. So what's new? What do we got lots of news to talk about. So what's going on, Colin?
I mean, like you said, there's a lot of news. I mean, we're going to touch on Sterling Shepard. My favorite thing that's come out of the last 48 hours is the Le'Veon Bell saying that he's up for it when it comes down to 500 touches. I know we were just kind of discussed this a little bit before we went live. That's beyond insane. And for a guy who has actual injury history before, I actually find it, I'll say ballsy that he's willing to just be like, I sat out a year. I know I had a ton of soft tissue injuries before, but give me as many touches as humanly possible. I'm locked up to this big contract. What's the worst that happens to me? I find that pretty interesting, especially being that now that he has the money, he's willing to do this. But obviously it's probably not going to happen. But if it does, that he's probably going to be not just RB1, but just number one overall player at this point. If he does get close to 500 touches, that'll be absolutely insane.
Well, it's impossible. There's no way he's going to get 500 touches. I mean, just
say that now.
Well, but try to think about all the people that have gotten 500 touches in their career. I mean, that's a very exclusive club, and it's really hard to do, especially nowadays. New York may have a really crappy receiver core and that may be very mediocre, but they still have guys that are going to get touches. Robbie Anderson, Chris Herndon when he comes back from suspension. Quincy Enunwa. I mean, they've got guys that are going to get touches. I mean, like, they would have to literally funnel that entire offense through Lev Bell for him to get 500 touches. That's if he can hold up. I mean, the dude just, he gets, like you said, soft tissue injuries every year.
But the question is, do you actually find that kind of believable that they'll run the entire offense through him? Because that wouldn't shock me.
But they have to be smart about his touches. I mean, that guy's going to get hurt.
This is the Jets that we're talking about. This isn't like, a historically well-run franchise. I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility that he gets like 180 touches, which is, absolutely obscene anyway. But that really would not shock me.
Well,
like 500, no. But like the 350, just because of the way that the Jets are run, if he stays healthy, I think it's possible. It's not likely, but I would say it's possible. Though.
Yeah, I'm more feeling the 3 to 350 range. Probably more like 325 is my soft spot for him. I struggle to think about how they would. First, they have to be on the field for a long time, and that's going to be hard to do because their offense is. They're in year 2 with Sam Darnold. He's in a new offense. There's going to be growing pains. It's like there are going to be a lot of 3-and-outs.
We'll see. I mean, I think that's going to be a fairly competitive Jets team. I still don't see them getting more than 7 wins, but I think they'll be a fairly adequate offensive team. I think it'll be around the total yards probably between the 17th to 23rd overall. A solid defense, and that'll get them a couple wins.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the touches. There's never been a player in history that's gotten 500 touches. So
I know.
1984, James Wilder with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got 492. The next closest guy is Larry Johnson in Kansas City with 457. I mean, Lev Bell, it would have to be insane. Like he would literally carry a team to a championship if he got 500 touches,
or carry to a 6-10 record.
That too. I just don't see it. Like if you're somebody who's out there, 4 to 425 is the max, and I'm guessing he's going to get hurt this year. Players who've had a year off from football tend to come back, and they're a little bit softer, and they're a little bit. It takes time to get back into game shape, and just. I don't like I said last week. As soon as I took over a team that had Lev Bell, which is in the league that I'm in with you and Paul, I booted him. And I know Bridger loves him, and I love Bridger, so I'm glad he took him. But I just couldn't keep him. I just don't trust him. I want consistency. I want guys who are going to be consistent, staying on the field. And if so be it, if I lose a guy like Todd Gurley, who I'll never own, because I don't want to deal with that injury risk. I mean, that's just the way I play it. Now, obviously, you can't see – some of these things are unforeseen. Lev Bell is – I just don't trust him at this point.
Right. No, I completely understand. And actually, in that league, it was one of those things. I was tempted to talk to you about Bell with the one exception of I am blowing that roster up completely. The only way that I was going to be interested in him is that I know how you value Bell, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, maybe if I get him a little undervalue, wait until the first 4 weeks and then ship him off, maybe. But I didn't even try to make that call because I was talking with Bridger, and he was like, yeah, I'm talking to him about Bell, and I'm like, all right, he's going to pay more than I will already. I'm not even going to try to have this conversation.
Well, I think the tough thing is that Bridger and I spent well over 24 hours negotiating the terms of that deal. There were so many back and forths about the different pieces, and then it was bringing in Phillip Rivers because it's a super flex. There were so many, little pieces of the deal, and there were guys that he wanted that I didn't trade him. He wanted LA's other backs. For some reason, the guy that had the team before me decided everybody other than Todd Gurley was a good idea, and I've got Darrell Henderson and I've got all the other running backs in LA, and I'm like, I don't really care. Yeah, we'll put him in a deal, but that just didn't happen. I just wasn't gonna. We hit the sweet spot.
The honest portrayal of that is that he only had Kelly. The owner dropped out halfway through the draft, and a couple of the owners of the league decided together that Darrell Henderson was the most fair pick left. Literally one pick before Bridger, who planned on moving up to get Henderson before that happened too.
Oh, that's
which
funny.
Is the ironic part about it. I talked him out of taking Henderson, saying that Henderson was going to fall, and then he was taken one pick before him.
I love Paul. Paul just said your prior owner was not smart.
Yes,
I,
I mean, hey, I got what was the equivalent, I think, of 102 overall in the rookie draft for, oh man, who Tyree Cleveland, the guy who
wow.
doesn't even play in Florida anymore. So that should give you an idea.
Well, see, and I remember my younger days of fantasy football when I would make really bad decisions. I mean, like really bad decisions. So I try not to say that people aren't smart, but man, if you've been doing fantasy football for a while, like your team should not look that bad. I mean, younger
Oh, it
people
was
that are
bad.
new in fantasy, you're going to make some really knucklehead decisions from time to time, and I get that. Like we were talking before the show, you make bad decisions in trades. It's inevitable because we're making lots of trades. I mean, it's just
Right.
sometimes that happens, but
Right.
so I try not to call a guy not smart, but I would trust yours and Paul's observations on an owner. So
That was that was one of those that like we kind of knew what we were in for around. I want to say it was like the first round of that startup draft. We were like, oh, okay, so this is going to be a thing now. So yeah, we kind of had an idea very early on that
yeah.
it wasn't going to be the strongest owner. So we're glad that we have someone who's happy to pick up a real rebuild challenge and hope for the best.
Yeah, well, and for me, I mean, the big selling point when Paul posted that they need an owner is
Yep.
I wanted Debbie and I wanted IDP. Like, I wanted something super deep that was going to be challenging.
It's everything.
The unfortunate thing is it's on Flea Flicker. Like, that's it.
I like it.
Well, and I'm hoping by the end of the season I'm just more comfortable with it. It just feels so clunky moving around. It feels like MFL too. Like MFL's clunky too. Like there's stuff
Yeah.
about MFL where I'm like, I don't like that. Stuff about Flea Flicker, I'm like, this is kind of goofy. So to answer your question, Anthony. So Anthony asked, what year did I start fantasy football? So this will probably show my age. So my home league, which starts drafting tomorrow morning, and I'm very excited about it. I started in that league. So that league started in 1999. The first pick in that draft was Terrell Davis. I'll just say that. I actually joined the league in 2001 when I graduated high school. So I've got a few years of fantasy football experience, and I'd say from 2001 to like 2011, I made the Super Bowl 2 years in a row, and otherwise I was like a bottom feeder. Like it took me forever to really start to figure out how to build a team and all sorts of stuff like that. So I've been doing fantasy football for a while. I really didn't expand into other types of leagues until like 2012. I started doing Superflex, and I included some IDP a couple years after. So I've been doing fantasy football for a long time. What about you, Colin? What's your fantasy football history?
I started around. All right, let me think. Around like 2007 or 2008. There was a good league of my father's and some of his neighbors, and I've been playing since I was really young, to the point that I won my very first championship at, I want to say it was the age of 13. That was originally redraft, transitioned into almost exclusively Dynasty by like 17, and then completely only Dynasty on since like 19. Like I don't do any more redraft anymore. I just don't see the fun in it anymore. I really wish I could. It's just, it kind of takes away all of the game planning, which, I understand people that like redraft. It's fun to get along, get all your guys together, have a couple beers and do a draft, but I can't ever enjoy it as much as I enjoy like a long dynasty draft.
Well, the funny thing for me, the thing that I like about redraft is mostly because we don't do it anymore. Like I only have one or two leagues that are guys that I've known for a long time that we do a redraft every year, just because we're in dynasties together. We're like, this almost feels like the anomaly anymore. Like everything I do is dynasty. So I'm like, I like having a couple of redrafts just so I can still be around it. But redraft drafting almost feels like like fish in a barrel. It's really simple to do for the most part.
Right. And I'm just gonna go off on little tangents here for a second.
Craig.
That there is no leagues that I honestly dislike personally more than like 2 to 3 player keeper leagues. That is the most aggravating league to me ever, because you can't, every single year every single team, basically for the most part, is going to be almost equally competitive going into the season. Where I like the whole aspect of Dynasty because you can really build something for years and years and sustain it if you know what you're doing.
And if you don't trade like me, like I trade like crazy. Like I
I
go
do.
from I go from a champ to a rebuilder because I get bored and decide to trade everybody.
You and me both. I do the
Uh,
exact same thing. That's literally what I just did in my home league, the one that Paul's in, Gridiron, where I won it the very first year, sold every single veteran, did a rebuild last year, and at this point, I have a stacked young roster that is ready to compete with a couple top devies coming in next year. I got Herbert, Fromm, and Swift
look at
to add
you.
into my roster next year. Oh, I'm good. And right now, I'm in talks to add Sony Michel for bench pieces right now. So
Well, yeah, because everyone's
you know
afraid
that
of
would,
him.
yep, that would be like my RB4 right now, and I already have Damian Harris on that roster. So there's really no real downside to me if it's like I think the current offer I have is trading away Rashad Penny, Jay Ajayi, and like a 2021 second for him. Yeah,
See, I like Rashad. The tough thing for me is I like Rashad Penny. Like I like him a lot for
I
the
do
long
too.
haul, but I
The
mean,
thing about him is just I don't feel great about Carson still being there. If Carson wasn't there, I agree. And then again, like I said, I already have Damian Harris. Really, what's the worst? If Sony misses a ton of time, I have the other lead back
right.
there,
And
and I'm not
I
giving.
got a shout out to Craig Ruth. He's the
Let's do it.
man. So his response was, "Oh boy, Brad and Colin tonight must be Christmas come early." It is.
It is.
Colin and I hadn't talked in a little bit other than fantasy football, and he
Yep,
approached me this week and said he was ready to come back to the host
absolutely.
chair. So
Yep.
Anthony says, "Do you prefer having the option to drop players on your bench after their game starts, or have them locked from dropping until waivers?"
I like
Go ahead, Colin.
That's me. I like locked. I just there's always going to be a couple owners that aren't going to be paying as much attention, and I don't like it personally when as an owner that does pay like a stupid amount of attention, it definitely benefits me to be able to do those drops. I like the whole regular waiver process though. I'm a major proponent of Fab. I
Yeah,
think that is the strongest system that we can really go with. I think I'm in one league that doesn't have everything locked. And it's okay. I don't like the whole add drop system after waivers go through. I like it to be that there's one day a week that if you missed all of your waivers, then you got to wait another week and hope that no one else takes the player that you like.
yeah, I do. I don't know that I'm in any leagues that aren't locked. Um, I don't necessarily have an issue with the dropping, but you'd have to be in. I would be okay with that if you're in a league with like a lot of owners who are like crazy like me, like are always on the fantasy
Exactly.
site. Like if you're as nuts about fantasy football as I am, then maybe I'm okay with it being you can do whatever you want. But I would struggle with that because I'm not in a league where I can't think of a league where there is 12 to 16 owners as nutty as I am on there. So I would probably say locked is the best way, Anthony, just to keep
Yeah.
just to be safe and keep it keep it good
A little
across
more
there.
down. Right.
Yeah, so that would probably be the way. Now I will say my home league is the only league I'm in that doesn't do, and we've talked about moving it to this, but we don't do free agency at all other than, so it's a 16 team, fairly standard scoring, but we're tight end premium. 16 teams, 23 roster spots, 3 taxi squad. We don't do Devi or IDP, although I have tried to push that every year for like the last 4 years, and it never gets voted in because I'm psychotic and everyone else isn't. But we literally say, I think it's 24 hours you have to fill your roster after the draft, and then we lock it down for the whole year. So like Philip Lindsay's in this draft. I mean, guys like that. And we've
Yeah.
talked about changing it, but I'm in so many other leagues that we do Fab. I'm like, I kind of like the nobody gets to do anything other than trades.
Yeah.
So we've talked about it, and the league will vote on it again because every year we vote on IDP, Devi, some of the big things, adding more taxi squad, I mean all that stuff. So we'll vote on it again. Eventually, we'll turn over enough of the guys in the league that
Eventually. Right.
we'll get it through. So I think I'd probably go with locked as well, and so Paul says. So Paul says this clown also took Herbert fourth overall, thinking he could flip him. Now he is now stuck with him. Is he talking about you?
I didn't take him thinking I could flip him. It's one of those like if I flip him, great. If I can't flip him, oh well. I am stacked at young quarterback in that league to the point that, like I said, that's the one where I was just saying that I have Herbert, Fromm, and Swift coming out next year. Like, I might not love having, both Fromm and Herbert in addition to the other QBs I have on that roster, but in a super flex league, that's fine. Like, I took him there because I thought that was the best value. It was either that or take another running back, and at the time, I would rather just have the extra quarterback.
Well, but the nice thing is that in Superflex, quarterbacks for the most part always have a decent amount of value. So it's not like if you sitting on them, you're going to get your return on the investment.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Craig says Sony for bench pieces ? But Paul tells me he's the RB1.
Yeah, I don't agree that he is an RB1. I think he's a mid RB2. But we'll see. I'm trying to grab Sony. If I can't grab him for a price that I think, that I'm comfortable with.
It must be Craig that you're trying to trade with.
No, it's not. It's not Craig. No.
Oh, okay. Let's say he's his response in there made me think maybe he's involved.
He's in that league though. He's in the league.
Oh, is that this league?
Yep. I got Paul and Craig in there. Yep.
Okay. So I haven't. I'm still trying to get to. I don't know most of the owners, so I'm still working my way through trying to.
Oh yeah.
Like the funniest thing to me is in this league, I really thought Antonio Brown was probably one of the first pieces I'd move. It's really hard to move him right now. I don't own any shares of him other than this league, and I'm like, I just want to trade this stinking guy off my team.
Yeah, I like in the league that they're talking about is a different league with the three of us. I got an offer to move Juju. And I actually talked to a couple guys in the Discord chat about this one. I had Juju and Mac for AB, Chubb, and a piece. And I'm still sitting on it and thinking about it, but I don't want AB on that roster. That's the thing. I have such a young roster, and keeping Juju on that team or then moving Juju for, maybe a slightly lesser wide receiver and another piece I'd rather do. But, and I'm not a big Marlon Mack guy. I am not the believer in Marlon Mack. Yeah, I know. Such a surprise.
In the words of the great How I Met Your Mother, come again for Big Fudge? What do you mean you're not a Marlon Mack guy?
Yeah. No, see, and the only thing that I was thinking, I'm like, if I get AB, I'm probably flipping AB. I don't know what I can do with that, and I'm probably going to flip Chubb for hopefully moving into another, younger running back who has perceived less value with another pick.
You can start drafting kids? Like Chubb's 20, 21 years old, 22 years old.
No, I know. I'm not saying someone younger. I'm saying another guy in that age range.
I'm about to say, I don't know if you can get much younger than one of the younger guys.
No. I just mean another, 24 or younger running back is what I should have said. But yeah, it's an interesting league. I've gonna ask Paul. I've turned that roster around completely, and that's the league where Craig actually moved Juju to me, and I would just like to yet again thank Craig for that one. That was fun.
Yeah, Craig. Yeah, Anthony says now's the time to grab Sony. So yeah, he says his value's at his all-time low. Craig says never too many QBs in Superflex. Have Baker, Rodgers, Watson, and Mahomes in one, and can live with that. And yes, most of my comments will be trolling Paul. He likes it.
He does. They have banter. That's the thing.
Oh, and Paul, okay. So another thing that I'm trying to do for those of you that are watching is I'm trying to start IDP mocks. I want to get some ADP up on the website. And Paul says Craig and Elliot are pretty good at IDP. So,
yep,
so you guys need to go onto the Facebook page and put your name and an email in there because I want to get this going. I want to start this soon because we have a really slick system for doing mocks and getting ADP together and putting it up on the site. I want to do that for IDP, and I've been trying to kick around a way to do it for Devi too. I really want to get Devi stuff up on there because we don't have much. And I get guys on Twitter all the time messaging me questions about Devi and IDP, and I'm like, I want to send them somewhere, but we don't have anything up yet. So that's some stuff that we're going to try to work on as well, is more content for Devi and IDP stuff. And as we get into the regular season, so last year on the site, I would post, kind of weekly guys that are maybe under the radar, that might be good starts. for IDP. So there'll be a lot of IDP content once we get to the regular season.
Oh, yeah.
And then for those of you that are watching, Colin and I will start talking Devy soon on the video on the stream here. But there's just too much camp news, which we've literally only touched one piece of it so far, or two pieces of it so far.
Right.
So he'll just take the XFL owned spreadsheet. Oh yeah, well I could. I mean that would be a good start. See, what I want to do is I want to get, just like we've been doing with the Roto Heat mocks, I want to get a little bit of a variety of people, so we have a few to kind of base this off of. I know Devy isn't like the biggest thing out there, but I think Devy can be something that sets us apart from the rest because a lot of people, you don't have a ton of people doing ADP for a lot of these Devy guys. I've been buying a lot of Devy stuff lately to try to get a better, grasp of maybe what's coming up, and get some of that going. So, so more Devy stuff to come. But let's get back to camp news. So,
let's do it.
Big news today, obviously, other than Lev Bell and his 8,000 touches that he says he's going to get, is Sterling Shepard broke a thumb or has a thumb injury, and he's going to be out for probably, I'd guess, about 4 to 6 weeks. And people seem to be a little bit nervous now.
A little bit.
The tough thing is, you kind of need your thumb to catch the football. I mean, without a thumb, that makes it dangerous. Thumb injuries, now, depending on how severe it is, and we really don't have full details of how severe it is, thumb injuries can really be a nagging injury throughout the year, and they're easy to aggravate during the season. And, this seems to, in my mind, bode well for the next guys up, which would be Evan Ingram and Golden Tate. I have seen people throw out Darius Slayton and Corey Coleman. I mean, you've been seeing guys in the Discord chats throw out those names. I would love to. I love the underdog story. I would love for Corey Coleman to finally have value, but I didn't like him before, so I don't really have any value for him now. I have Golden Tate shares and I have Evan Ingram shares. I'm happy about it with those guys. Sterling Shepard just signed a new. No, he didn't sign a new deal. He did, didn't he?
I think he signed a new contract.
Tyler Boyd's got a new deal. I know Shepard's got a deal. So these guys are guys that are still long term. I would not, if you're a Sterling Shepard owner, don't be selling cheap. No. I would hold.
Nope. Hold tight.
Don't get crazy. So what do you think about this injury? What do you think about it does for this year and for the foreseeable future? What are your thoughts?
So I completely agree on Shepard. I think Shepard, especially in like a redraft scenario now, he might be undraftable in redraft, depending on how it progresses. But there's a good chance that he'll miss the first couple weeks of the season. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be completely up to snuff physically. As a guy who owns a lot of Golden Tate, especially this off season when he was a free agent, I was getting him cheap. I'm very happy about this news for my Golden Tate shares. I think it does help Evan Ingram a good amount as well. And I actually do think that Darius Slayton could, show something now. I liked him as a prospect. He was, I believe they took him in the 5th round. I liked him. I didn't think that he was fantastic.
Somewhere on there, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, 4th or 5th, somewhere in there. I think I'd have to check. He's in the middle of the draft.
Thinking of Travis Fulgham, that was the 5th. That's why. I have Slayton and Fulgham like right next to each other. I had them next to each other in ranks. I like Slayton. I think he's a solid player. I think he could be a very low end wide receiver 3, something in that, wide receiver 35, 36 range this year, but could be an okay spot start in the flex position if Shepard really does miss a lot of time. Like you said, you can re-aggravate a broken thumb like nothing. It could be that, even when he just goes down, he just re-aggravates it, and that could be a nagging injury that'll just continue.
And so Rick says he doesn't think it'll hurt Shepard much for in-season. And then Anthony says he should be back by week 1, 2 at the latest. The struggle, I mean, the thing that would concern me is, and it's not really a concern. Him and Eli I'm sure have a good rapport. They've been together for a few years now. The only thing that I worry about is re-aggravating it. Can it be something that becomes like a nagging injury throughout the year? So I'm not devaluing him. I would not sell him any cheaper. Injury news happens to people all the time. I mean, Leonard Fournette tweaked a hammy today. Dude's hammies have been tweaked for 10 years now. I mean, I think he was born with bad hamstrings. So, obviously I'm not comparing Shepard and Fournette. Shepard I like more than Fournette. I do like Fournette, but, injuries occur. To everybody. So, so Shepard is a guy that, you definitely hold. Don't sell cheap. If you see an owner flinching in your leagues and he is getting nervous, buy him.
Right.
He's a guy that I love long term. I mean, I value him like I value Tyler Boyd. I'm a big Tyler Boyd guy too. So,
Wow. Okay. So you value Shepard a good amount higher than I do then.
probably,
I
think he profiles the same
like
as Boyd. I mean, really good receiver.
Yep, fair enough. I think Shepard has like a really, really solid career ahead of him. I just think he has, he could like max out around mid wide receiver 2 value. I think he could be like the next Jarvis Landry type, which is a perfect guy to have on your roster. It's just I don't think he's the guy to really plan around on your team. And I've seen a few people expect that Sterling Shepard's going to be like a top 10 wide receiver.
I'm not going top 10. I mean, he's
Right.
he's a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 most weeks, and and that's not a bad thing. So Rick says it's a fracture break. That's not as concerning as if he tore muscles. Absolutely true. Tearing muscles is really dangerous. Speaking of, not speaking of any of that, I'm just going to move over to Darius Geis because I know how much you love Darius Geis. We got good news on the Darius Geis front. So he is cleared for camp completely. He's good to go. So how many weeks before he tears something and he's out for the season?
Funny. I mean, the thing is, I mean, you should expect another minor soft tissue injury. Usually players that come back from ACL, MCL injuries, they do have nagging soft tissue injuries the next season. The one real exception to this that we've seen has been, Adrian Peterson, and that still is one of the most insane seasons that we've ever seen. I kind of see Geis having similar to like a Dalvin Cook season last year, where, the first couple weeks he's going to be involved, but not as heavily. He's going to get his touches, wait until he's up to snuff. Towards the end of the year, he'll probably start ramping up the usage, and if he gets injured, he might miss another week or two. But I think he's going to be a low-end running back to high-end RB3 this year, even with Chris Thompson and Adrian Peterson there.
Yeah, I mean, I've never owned Geis until this offseason, so last year I didn't get him anywhere. And I was able to, well, it's not that I didn't want him, but I was never picking 1 or 2, and I never traded for pick 1 or 2, so he typically went somewhere in the top couple, and I never had any of those. But I did wind up getting him this offseason, and I was trying to find what I traded for him. So I was able to get him. I felt like it was a fairly cheap deal, but let me see what I got here.
Definitely possible. There were some people that were trying to sell him fairly cheap just because of the way that, it happens every year where, a rookie either doesn't show much or gets injured, and then all of a sudden their value starts to plummet. I think this year the guy that's, going to be the perfect buy as far as rookie injuries go, I think around week 5, week 6, Bryce Love, you're going to be able to get him for like a 5th round pick.
Yeah, so in May, so this would have been, this was actually during a draft of a league I'm in, I was able to trade Aaron Jones. So this is a 14-team PPR, I think it's tight end premium. It's got full IDP. I traded Aaron Jones, Derek Barnett, and a 2024 for basically Geis and Adrian Peterson. I wound up getting like later picks back. And Arden Key, which was a throw-in, just because the guy needed to move a player. So basically, Aaron Jones for Darius Geis.
And I'm 100% on board with that, and I'm sure that the vast majority of the people in the chat are probably going to tell you that was the wrong decision to go with. Well, but I'm not a big Aaron Jones guy. I think he's a fine player. I just don't see.
Yeah, I like Aaron Jones. I don't mind Aaron Jones. I have them on. For me, they were on the same level. But I liked Geis's value more long term than I like Aaron Jones's value because I don't know what to make of Green Bay completely. I'm not sure how well this new head coach is going to gel with Aaron Rodgers and how this is going to move forward. Yeah. So there was enough concerns for me that I was okay with making them trade. Rick does not agree. Rick says Aaron Jones is better than Geis. See, and I can't knock it. Like I don't really have I don't hate either guy. Like I like them both. They're kind of on the same plane for me. So it didn't bother me. It made sure that I had a running back where Aaron Jones' injury history scares me just as much. So the guy gave me Geis and Peterson, so I know I was locked up. I'm a contending team, so I know I have Washington's running back. They're going to lean on the running game. Like I was comfortable going after that.
Yep.
And Paul says Green Bay is taking a running back high in 2020.
I would not be shocked at all. That's one of those teams that I really could see them spending like a mid-second round pick on a running back next year, depending on who falls. And again, I might be, told that I'm horribly wrong here. I could see someone like A.J. Dillon ending up in Green Bay to go alongside Aaron Jones, have an Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon backfield, which I would personally
about Jamal
see.
And Dexter Williams? What about the Williams brothers? My goodness.
Jamal Williams is a good pass blocker. That's what he is.
You can't get fantasy points for pass blocking.
No, if you're in a pass blocking league, he could be like an RB2. Like really, he'll pancake some guys over there. But he's not anything more than that for the most part. And Dexter Williams, I actually kind of liked what I saw in his tape back at Notre Dame. I do have a lot of minor issues with the player. I think where they got him, like it was a 7th round pick. That's about where I thought that he should go. He's a fine player. I think he's going to be a solid career backup. I just don't see him ever getting more than like 40 touches in a season, unless barring injuries.
I could see that.
Yep.
All right, so more news. So the next piece of news isn't really necessarily news, but some people I know will want to hear about it. Is the Patriots signed another tight end? They signed Mr. Butterfingers himself, Lance Kendricks.
Yep.
And I wanted to talk about this with you, seeing as you're one of our resident New England guys. So we got a few guys. We have a few bandwagon guys on our team that love the Patriots. No, I'm just kidding. I won't make fun of you as a bandwagon guy. What do you make of? So now we've got 78 tight ends in New England, and mostly mediocre. What do you make of all these tight ends?
So it's a very interesting situation, to say the least. The guy that I'd be most interested in long term is Andrew Beck. He's probably going to end up on their practice squad. I don't see him cracking that final roster unless they want to start the season with 4 tight ends, which would be interesting. I do think that Lance Kendricks, and from what I've heard around training camp around here, is that he's almost a shoo-in to make the final roster, but almost exclusively as a blocking tight end. Like, you won't see him doing almost anything other than blocking, maybe trying to stretch the field, and then, like you said, with the Butterfingers, it might be a lot like the Brady catch, or failed catch in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
Right.
But I think he will make the final roster, especially when, at least for the first 4 games, where Watson won't actually count on the active roster with his suspension. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens, but if you're expecting anything from fantasy-wise, no. The closest thing to a fantasy-relevant tight end that'll probably happen on this team would be Matt Lacoste if he makes the roster, but I'm not sure he's going to make the roster, and even if he does, I think he's like a tight end 3, which is barely rosterable.
Yeah, I've been telling guys all offseason, just stay away from New England tight ends until they figure things out, and it's probably not this year that they figure those things out.
Right, right. Well, the thing about that offense is that they're going to run the ball more than they ever have, and I'll call it right now. James White in a PPR league is probably going to be a borderline RB1. They're going to throw the ball to James White more than we've ever seen in the regular season. I know that we've seen him get like 15, 17 catches in postseason, but in the regular season, he's been solid. He's had up and down games. I think he's going to be a constant PPR scorer, though, this year.
I think he has to. I mean, you have to account. Somebody's got to get those catches that Gronkowski would have gotten. It's not going to be Ben Watson. I mean, he's just not. He's not that guy anymore.
No. Like, I think he's either 37 or 38. Like, it's not going to happen. I think the main reason that they brought him in, if I'm being honest, I think it's to coach a couple of the younger guys that they're going to have around. And there's been rumors that after this season, he's going to transition into the tight ends coach position. So
he's old enough
makes
to.
Sense, right? And it makes a lot of sense why you bring in the tight end coach a year early, And I think that's more of why he's back in New England. Yeah. I don't think you get basically any real fantasy relevance out of that position this season.
Well, I like Paul's take. So Paul says New England takes tight ends off the scrap heap to plus blocking. Cincinnati drafts second-round tight ends for average blocking. Wonder why one of these teams is good and one is trash. Well, it's true. I mean, Cincinnati is trash.
Yep.
But I love Joe Mixon.
I'm glad you do.
Hey, I'll take it. I'm okay with it. So what do you make of the Patriots working out Justin Hunter? I saw that today too.
That was a couple days back. I think the news just came out either today or yesterday.
Yeah, it was recently. I took news from the 21st of today, and that's kind of my list. So it was sometime in the last 4 days.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think he came in on Monday. Apparently the workout went well, but it wasn't an immediate signing. So
I don't know why they need him.
I mean,
they have a ton of wide receivers.
Yeah, but have you looked at that wide receiving core? That's why they're just trying to. They're basically doing as Paul said, look at the scrap heap, see exactly what you can get this late in the year. I mean, Dontrell Inman apparently has done horribly in camp, so I think that what it is they're probably looking for another veteran to replace Inman on the final man, the final like fifth or sixth wide receiver on the team. Because I don't think they're gonna run with more. I'd be shocked if they have more than 3 tight ends. Where on multiple years we've seen them carry 4 tight ends, even 5 tight ends with James Devlin getting the tight end moniker instead of fullback. So
I could see them trading for somebody during training camp, though. Look at a team like, say, Denver. They drafted a young tight end. They've got some older guys, and some other guys, Jake Butts and and Jeff Hufferman. And if they find a guy that could fit the system and pick it up quickly and is very smart, I could see them trading for somebody.
It's possible. I don't think that this is the year that they do that, though. From everything that is coming out around here is that they're pretty actually content with their tight end position. I think because, I know, right? I think the main thing is that they are just bringing in blocking tight ends who might be able to catch a touchdown or 2 in the red zone. And I think that's why they're content. That's why Kendricks is here. That's why Lacoste, who's a decent blocker, is here. That's why they brought back Ben Watson with no versatility other than to be able to block. Andrew Beck in college was known much more as a blocking tight end. I think that's why they're content with the position. And then there's still always those rumors that, Gronk might be coming back week 9, week 10. It's already been agreed to. There's been a lot of rumors of that. So I know. But believe me, if anyone doesn't want to keep hearing about the Gronk stuff, it's this guy who hears about it like 3 times a day, every single day of my life. I don't like this whole will he, won't he, what's going on? It's like high school relationship stuff.
I don't know if you've noticed, but Gronk is a giant child, so he probably gets in on, he's probably into that business.
Not just that, but he's lost like 40 pounds. Like, if you've seen any recent stuff, he is not the Gronk of old.
Well, but any NFL player that takes time off, and that stops focusing, drops a ton of weight.
And that's kind of why I don't think he's going to come back. I mean, I keep hearing it that, there's a good chance it happens. And I'm like, yeah, but like I'm looking at his Instagram, and this man's lost like 40 pounds of muscle. I don't think that he can come back that easily. I mean, we'll see. But
he'd have to start working on that now. I mean, he'd have to get back in that,
Exactly.
Paul says Albert Uquigabon, I don't even know how to say that dude's name. The Mizzou tight end to New England.
It's possible that there's a lot of different positions for the Patriots in next year's draft that they're going to address. The only one that we can really say for sure that they won't address is probably the running back position.
How do we not know they're going to be addressing their entire team disappearing? I mean, what if this is the year they finally hang it up,
Brady keeps saying he's playing to 45. He wants a contract extension. Now, I believe he's going to play to 45. I don't know if he's going to be playing with the Patriots to 45.
That's just terrible.
I think that there's actually a chance that this could be the final season with Brady and Belichick, and maybe he rides off into the sunset. Maybe he gets angry and wants to, show Bill off, and go try and win a Super Bowl somewhere else. I think there is a decent chance, though, that this is the last season that we will see Tom Brady in a Patriots uniform.
It's kind of a little late in his career to decide he's going to go somewhere else and try to be successful. I mean, that really could tarnish the legacy if he does that and it goes badly.
Oh, yeah, it absolutely could.
Then immediately it's like, well, yeah, Tom Brady won all the rings, but it was really Bill Belichick that won the rings, and Tom Brady was just was the puppet. If he's smart, he retires a Patriot and just rides off into the sunset and enjoys retirement.
That would be the smart thing, but he is very spiteful, especially towards Bill Belichick, and Belichick is very spiteful towards him. And there's a good chance that the two of them, they want to prove to everyone, that they are the more important of it.
Who cares? I mean, quite honestly, they're both the most important.
Two of them really care.
Belichick's probably the best coach in sports history, any sport. Brady's probably the best quarterback in history. It's like, what are you fighting for? Like, they're not going to make a building that looks like you. I mean, what are they going to turn the Hall of Fame into Belichick's mouth and you have to walk into his mouth? I mean, like, it just doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. You're not going to get an argument from me. What I can say is that around here, it is a very, very highly debated subject who was more important to their dynasties, what's going to happen, and there's a lot of people think that Brady's actually going to go play a season or two elsewhere.
Well, that gives me the vibe of like Emmitt Smith when he went to Arizona. Like, oh man, I'm so good, I'm going to go anywhere else and do whatever I want. He went to Arizona and sucked.
That's exactly what I'm thinking too, and I think that's the Brady in him being like, the system doesn't matter. I'm going to go be myself, and he's going to go behind one of the worst offensive lines in football at the age of 44 and get killed. I'm on Team Bill, so if that's what he wants to do and wants to try to prove himself,
that doesn't make any that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you guys have won all these championships, you might as well just enjoy and move on. So speaking of enjoying and moving on, I want to talk a little IDP because we've had a bunch of IDP news this week.
Let's do it.
The first one I want to talk about is probably the most surprising in my mind. I know you could see the tea leaves coming, but the Redskins released Mason Foster, which I thought was maybe a year or two too soon because he's still really a very good linebacker and could still have good IDP production. And I think he will in some other team. So what's your take on Mason Foster getting dumped from the Redskins?
It was a little surprising, but the backlash that they had just from bringing him in originally kind of justifies why they want to get rid of him. I don't know what to make of him. I don't know what to make of his value right now.
I don't think you can trade him at this point.
No, you definitely can't. I don't even know if I would try to acquire him. I think that there is a chance that he doesn't get another job.
It might be late in the season, or it might be late in the, he might be stuck for a little while.
But if I remember correctly, isn't he supposed to be out for the entire year?
You mean like suspended? No.
I'm thinking of Reuben Foster. That's my bad.
Yeah, you're thinking Reuben Foster. He's done for the year.
Yeah,
that injury's pretty.
I was thinking of Reuben. Yep.
Paul says wrong Foster.
Exactly.
No. Mason Foster has been a stud ever since he came over from Tampa Bay. I mean, he's a good linebacker. He's going to get you a lot of tackles. And this is a great time of year for him to leave. Like, I would love a team like Detroit to get him, if I'm being biased, because Detroit needs a real leader in the middle of that linebacker. Gerard Davis, I was talking to a buddy earlier today. Gerard Davis reminds me of Ernie Sims, who was another former Lions linebacker who was all speed and no brains.
Yep.
So a guy like Mason Foster being released right now, he should be a hot commodity. Like Mike Daniels. I don't see Mike Daniels as a hot commodity defensive lineman, but he's getting a lot of people bringing him in for workouts.
Yeah, that was actually a really surprising one for me. I didn't see Mike Daniels getting cut this time of the year. That would be an interesting fit for a couple different teams. Foster, like you said, has been a stud. I mixed up Wish Foster because they have two linebacking Fosters on that roster.
They do.
Yeah, well, they had to. Mason, like you said, has been an absolute stud, especially in IDP scoring. He's been really strong.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be an interesting fit to see where he goes. I haven't heard any news about if he's going in for workouts or anything yet. So we'll see about that one. Daniels, so I don't want to be that guy. But there have been rumors that the Patriots are also one of the teams that want to bring in Mike Daniels.
That would ruin his value to me.
That would be a perfect fit for them, defensively.
It would be great defensively.
I don't know if he's going to be willing to take the money that New England will offer him, because that's kind of the whole thing. You want to come play for us, you're going to have to make less money than everyone else. And it doesn't work for a lot of players.
No way.
So we'll see.
Well, especially at his age. So he has to decide whether he wants money or a ring.
What does he want? That's going to be the question. Because if he wants a ring, there's not a better team to pick than going and playing for New England.
Unfortunately.
Really. Yeah, I mean, as far as teams that need another defensive tackle go, that is the best title contender that needs another DT.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So we've got two more defensive guys that I want to talk about that I think are big. So Yannick Ngakoue from Jacksonville, he's holding out. That is quite bothersome for me. Like I've tried to sneaky get him in a lot of places because I really love him, but he needs to sign. He needs to get into camp. They brought in Josh Allen, and Josh Allen's probably going to be a linebacker with Telvin Smith's retirement or stepping away from football. But they could easily put Josh Allen's hand in the dirt and say, Yannick, peace. Because they've got guys that could do what he does. And then on the flip side of that, Kevin Byard signed a 5-year extension with the Titans, $70 million and 31 guaranteed. I love Kevin Byard on the safety position. So we got two more defensive guys I want to talk about before we put everyone to sleep here about IDP. But Kevin Byard and Yannick Ngakoue, what do you make of those two very different situations?
So Yannick turning down a shorter-term deal that would have paid him $19 million a season is I don't even know how you say no to that. Like, as a defensive end, I don't know how you say no to. I believe I think it was a 2-year deal, $38 million, and like 29 was guaranteed, and he said no. You're making almost $20 million a year to play. You're in Jacksonville. You're probably playing 16 games. Let's be honest about it.
With that weather? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I have no idea why he turns that down. I get the whole he wants the longer contract. He wants the security. But when a team's willing to offer you, like, completely overpay for a shorter term deal, and he's so young still. That's the thing. Like, if he was
24.
Exactly. If he was 27 and he said no, I'd understand more. This is a guy that he can make basically $40 million and then hit the open market at the age of 26.
Mm-hmm.
That is insane in my opinion, for him to say no to.
Oh yeah.
And Byard now being the highest paid safety in the NFL is an interesting one.
He's so good.
He's really good.
Really
good. That much money for a safety though. Like it's a lot. That is a lot. That's a big contract for a guy who in about 2 to 3 years from now could very well be a shell of himself.
Well, but he's still young enough that he could get a few more years of that. In the way that Vrabel runs that defense, which you're very familiar with, safety is critical. I mean,
it is.
They paid for the right position. I don't know. I think I'm more on the, like, you can get 4 to 5 years out of him because he's only in his mid-20s. But I could easily see him being one of the better safeties. I think in our rankings he's up near he's up in the upper half, top 50 players overall IDP. So he could still stay in the top 50 for a few more years without too much trouble.
If I remember correctly, I think that we have him around like the 7th or 8th overall defensive back.
And I wouldn't tell you exactly which is which because you got to go over to roadheat.com and subscribe and get our awesome expert rankings.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's in the top 50. I know that for sure. I haven't pulled it up and verified, but I know he's in the top 50 because he's that good. I mean, he is a safety one at this point. Like, you could have him as your starting safety and feel comfortable with it.
Absolutely.
So before we put the masses to sleep with IDP content, because we know that nobody wants to sit and listen to IDP for an hour, even though I could talk about IDP all day.
We can.
Let's jump back to the offensive side of the ball. So this one does affect Darius Geis. Trent Williams is not reporting to camp. He doesn't like the way that they handled his medical condition. So he had a lump in his head, and they waited a few years to remove it. They really need to figure out a way to fix this. Like, Washington has been really screwing things up here lately. They're cutting guys that don't make sense. They're screwing with people's medical. Like, Washington could be the worst run franchise in the NFL.
You can debate that they are one of the, if not the worst run franchise in all of the 4 major sports at this point. Between
it's hard to think with the Knicks and Phoenix over in the NBA. There may be some franchises that are more poorly run, but not by much.
But that's the thing. At least Phoenix has like a future. Like, we think that Phoenix might be able to, actually have a future. Now, if you can absolutely make the case with James Dolan and the Knicks, and I won't fight you on that one. But I can.
He might fight you just for the fun of it.
Yeah, exactly. He might just from us talking about him negatively. There's a good chance that I'm going to get barred from going to Madison Square Garden. I got tickets to go see Elton John there in November. But anyway,
he's going to kick you out. He's going to say, "I saw you on the internet. You suck."
Exactly. I saw you say negative things about me. Block. So between the name still hasn't been fixed. I still think that they should just call themselves the Washington Football Team. I think that I don't change your colors, don't change anything. I just really think that at this point and everything going on between the mismanagement, the medicals, the refusal of changing the name, the fact that Jay Gruden is getting another year, like there's just a lot of things that I don't understand why Washington is doing what they're doing. And I thought Dwayne Haskins was a fine draft pick. I don't understand why you bring in Haskins, keep Colt McCoy, and then decide to spend a ludicrous amount of money to bring in Case Keenum. There's so many things that I don't understand why they're doing these things, especially when they know that they're going to be the bottom of the NFC East. Why are you
It might
eating
be at the bottom
money?
of the NFL.
Right. Why are you eating the money on Case Keenum's contract if you know that Haskins is going to be your starter towards the end of the season? Like, that's one of those things, you decide to just let some of your bigger name players go. You let Clinton Dix walk, and then you spend a obscene amount of money on Landon Collins.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't understand half of what they're doing.
Well,
And
it almost feels like it's like a back and forth, tug of war. It feels like some of these moves Jay Gruden's doing to try to keep his job or to interview for his next job. Some of the moves feel like the GM is trying to build a team. I could build the case and build the narrative that this time next year, or in the offseason, that entire thing is blown up. Like I could easily see Gruden gone, GM gone. I mean, this whole new regime, which in my mind, I would rather Haskins ride the bench and stay safe for the next guys that come in. Like, don't even play him.
No, that's fair. I don't think that he should be starting until like week 14. If you want to give him 2 or 3 starts at the end of the year just to see what he has, that's fine. But I wouldn't be starting him early on. And we've heard that it's an open quarterback competition, that there's a decent chance that Haskins can win. I don't know. With Jay Gruden, I believe that it's actually an open competition. I think there is a decent chance that Haskins can win that job. And we might be sitting here next year talking about Haskins the way that we talk about, Josh Rosen.
Say Josh Rosen. Oh, I knew you were going to say Josh Rosen. Don't say Josh Rosen.
It's possible. I'm not saying it's likely, but
I like Haskins so much more than Josh Rosen. I can't have you saying that.
Yeah, if he starts week 1 with that offense, there's a decent chance that we're talking about him like Rosen next year. And I hope that I'm wrong because I have a lot of Dwayne Haskins this year. But I think that there is a legitimate chance that happens.
Michael Swope says because they cannot win, fly Eagles fly. Yeah, he must be a Philly fan. The chatters are on. Rick says the chatters are on meth, so this is interesting. Yeah, the struggle I have with the whole situation is, not only is the franchise completely misrun. I mean, you need Trent Williams in. The original conversation is Trent Williams isn't reporting. You've got to fix that. You need him as your left tackle. You have him. You have Brandon Scherf. You have some pieces along that offensive line. Morgan Moses. You really can't go making your stalwart left tackle mad. You got to fix that.
Not even just that. Trent Williams, I mean, you can make the case, and I will make the case. He is currently the best left tackle in football and has been the past couple seasons since Joe Thomas retired. I can't think of another left tackle as far as actually full quarterback protection that's done a better job on the left side.
Well, I mean, I would say anybody. I mean, Dallas has had kind of the offensive line over the last few years.
They've had the best overall line.
Tyron Smith's really solid.
I know. Yes.
The hard part for me is after Dak came in, Dak kind of make all the guys look weird, look rough because he's all over the place. He moves around a lot and all that. So, oh, yeah, I'm just now looking at the chat. Craig says Tyron Smith is a better left tackle. And that's the thing. Tyron Smith was a better left tackle before Dak, so I put some of it on Dak and not necessarily Tyron Smith. So, but, when you're at the top 5 at your position, it's kind of like pulling hairs. It's which one do you like more. Right. So, but what do you make for Washington's offense this year if a guy like Williams doesn't show up or he isn't playing or he gets hurt? I mean, that really hurts him.
If I were to guess, what they would do is they'll probably move Shrife over to left tackle, only because he's kind of an oversized left guard. I don't know if that's going to work well. He's a great guard. I don't know if he can bounce over to tackle. I can't even think of who they have as backup, the third and fourth tackles right now, because they aren't one of the teams that's invested a lot of money in that third and fourth tackle. At least that's not that I can recall.
No, they drafted some guys. Hold on, I'm pulling up their roster right now. So let's
Yeah, I
see
think
here.
they drafted someone in like the fourth round, I want to say, but I can't remember.
They grabbed somebody recently.
Yeah.
So they've got Gary and Christian, Tim and Paris, and Blake Hance as their tackles behind Trent Williams and Morgan Moses. So it's rough. But really, their backup positions across the board are rough. I mean, they really don't have anything, and even their center. I mean, Chase Rollier and then Eric Flowers at left guard. I mean,
right.
It's not good. It's not great. So you can't afford to lose anybody.
Nope. And they're probably more likely than not going to lose Trent Williams. We can go on for an hour about how they've mismanaged this entire franchise over the past 15 years.
Hot garbage.
Like, specifically since the drafting of RG3. That's when it got significantly worse than it ever has. You have a promising young quarterback, has a major injury, you force him through it, he ends up never being able to recover from that. Now, let's just hope that Haskins doesn't have the same problem. It's such a horribly run franchise.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Yep.
But to move to a franchise that is not horribly run, we're gonna talk about Rick and Mai's love running back Duke Johnson. All right, so Duke Johnson. Two things have come out this week. So Duke Johnson's got Drew Rosenhaus as an agent, and he met with John Dorsey. There's not a lot of news on that front. We haven't heard if he's still requesting a trade. I mean, you have to assume that he wants something to happen. Kitchens told us today, I believe, that there is a role in this offense for him, that he's going to get a decent amount of time on the field every week. He's got a role. I love Duke Johnson. I'm still trying to acquire him, not expecting anything this year, but looking long-term for him. What do you make of some of these comments that you're hearing coming out of Cleveland?
I think that when they say that, it's true. I think that they do have a pass-catching running back built into the offense. I don't know if Duke Johnson is going to be the guy there. I still think there's a good chance that he holds out until he gets moved. And even if he doesn't, I think that if he ends up coming in, he could be really productive those first 8 weeks of the year. And I think after that entire pass catcher role is probably going to be given off to Kareem Hunt. And I think that's part of why it is that he's holding out. In addition to he wants another contract, they brought in Hunt. Duke seems like a fairly intelligent guy, and he's probably looking at it the way that I look at it here, which is, they already didn't, really have anything to do with him in the offense last year. I understand that they say that they're going to give him more touches and that he's there in the offense, but then you bring in another running back, even though you did not need a third guy in Cleveland, as a reclamation project for Kareem Hunt, who's known as a very good pass-catching running back. We'll see what happens here.
Well, the other interesting piece is they worked out Orleans Darkwa as well.
Exactly.
Orleans Darkwa is healthy now. 100% healthy, and he's been working out for teams. So it's a weird situation. It's almost like they're looking for a trade partner or maybe trying to make that happen, and they're already looking for the guy that they're going to bring in to be the third running back.
Right. And I think that's probably what they're doing. I just don't know what team's going to be willing to, or even what a team is willing to give up for Duke Johnson at this point, where they know that Johnson is trying to leave. Like, what if you're a franchise trying to get Duke Johnson and you know that he's not going to play? What are you even going to be willing to offer?
Well,
what, a second-round pick?
The place I would love to see him go, because I think they would probably use him well, would be Houston. I would love to see him go to Houston because I don't like Lamar Miller whatsoever. And with the way that Deshaun Watson plays, having a guy who can catch really well out of the backfield and could really be a nice compliment to Deonta Foreman. If Deonta Foreman's healthy, he can kind of be your pounder, your guy between the tackles, kind of your big back. And then Duke Johnson can get more playing time as well as being your pass catcher. I mean, that would be a place that is ideal in my mind, is one place that I've always wanted to see him go. I'm also seeing multiple people, Rick and Paul, say Tampa Bay. What? They got Rojo. What do you mean, Tampa Bay?
Hey, as someone who's bought a ridiculous amount of cheap Rojo shares this year, I don't want Duke to end up there. I could see him working out there.
I'm just trying to troll Rick because I know Rick loves Rojo.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think he's got a Rojo bobblehead at home with his Funko
Absolutely.
Pops.
My favorite place for Duke to end up, if it were ever to happen, and I don't see it happening, but I'd love to see him in Dallas. I think him going alongside Ezekiel Elliott would be a fantastic pairing.
Man, they're gonna drop Zeke next year, man. That contract, they can get rid of that whole thing next year. Whole
They
thing.
can't. They won't. They won't.
I want Zeke
They
gone.
might.
I want
I don't
him to just
know.
be done. I'm tired of hearing about him.
I know.
It's like, dude, the dude can't. When you're as super talented as he is, you should never get in trouble. You really shouldn't. Like, hire a guy to make sure you don't do stupid things. You know.
But seriously, other than Zeke and Cooper, what else do they have on that offense? They have a good offensive line.
They don't have Alan Hearns because they released him today.
Yeah, they did. I mean, you have Dak for what that's worth. You still don't really have a tight end. Your tight end position is so bad that Jason Witten came out of retirement because of how horrible he was in the broadcast booth. And
I still like Blake Jarwin better. Quite honestly, he's the guy. He's the tight end I want from Dallas, and I've got him in a couple places.
yeah, see, I don't want any of those Dallas tight ends now. I had a couple Jarwin shares, and then when they're like, Witten's coming back, I'm like, who wants him for a fifth?
Yeah, but it almost feels like a Watson-esque move where he's going to come back to help with blocking more than anything. Because you saw it in the playoffs last year. Jarwin and Dak had a rapport. I mean, Jarwin came on when it came to the playoffs, and I could see him. Rick says Gallup. I could see Jarwin progressing a little bit more because you got to remember Jarwin's super young. He was still very young when he started playing last year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's possible. I just don't see. Dallas is one of those teams that I actually think next year will be going after a tight end in the draft. There's a couple guys in next year's tight end class that are actually solid tight ends. We'll get to that when we get to a Devy show.
Those are coming.
Exactly, they're coming. But there are actually a couple decent tight end prospects going into the season. And then we always have a couple guys that every year show up out of nowhere. This year was T.J. Hawkinson, where no one would have been talking about Hawkinson at the start of last year. He was thought of as the backup tight end in Iowa. Ends up being heralded as one of the, if not the best tight end prospects in the last 15 years.
Well, and Detroit's talking nice about him already. I mean, they said he looks like the real deal in training camp.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. He is a scary man. He's huge. Like, that's one of those guys that I loved him as a player. Again, we've gone over the Fant versus Hawkinson conversation 15 times. Fantasy wise, I completely understand if you want to side with Fant, especially being that both Joe Flacco and Drew Lock, both of the quarterbacks, rely on the tight end. I don't know. I'm still in the Hawkinson card. I just think that talent is too bad. It's too good not to eventually become fantasy relevant.
Well, and Hawkinson, in my mind, we're a year away from Detroit blowing up the thing, and Hawkinson could survive a rebuild. I fully expect Detroit to not be good this year, and Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia and the whole front office get swiped clean. Hawkinson could survive that. Carry-on could survive that. Matthew Stafford won't survive that. I mean, I could easily. That's kind of my bold take as a Lion Slappy, is them rebuilding sooner rather than later, because this isn't going to work. We've seen the Patriots way fail time and time again. And Mike Lombardi. If you listen to his podcast, which I don't do all the time, but I do try to tune in a little bit more because Mike Lombardi seems to have the ears of and hear a lot around the league. He was just crushing Detroit this week. Basically that people see through this BS Patriots way that they're trying to do in Detroit. And I could see the Lions getting blown up next year real easily. Stafford's contract you can move out from under without too much cap casualties. There's so much that they could, I would rather them rebuild because I don't see this winning a championship.
Yeah.
Just is what it is, as much as I want them to.
I know. I think that they're probably going to be like 8-8 this year, and I think that's going to be good enough that Patricia doesn't lose his job. Which, again, that just kind of feeds into the whole Detroit mediocrity for so long. I think that's going to be it. So, we had a bad season, we had a slightly better year, Maybe next year we'll get to 10-6, and then they'll be back to like 6-10, and then he gets fired after 2020. That's kind of how I see this going. I hope for your sake I'm wrong, and I again as a Patriots fan, I actually really do enjoy seeing all of these coaches leave because they think that the grass is greener and then fail miserably. So I enjoy seeing it. The only guy I think won't fail is going to be Brian Flores. I really think that Flores is actually going to be successful in Miami. I don't know to what level of success he's going to have because
it's a low bar. Adam Gase didn't really set it very high.
Yeah, no, that could very well be like the worst roster, like full, altogether roster in the NFL right now. Just because they have a lot of young talent, but it's so young that we don't really know what they have yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll find out in Miami, but I really do expect that Dolphins defense is going to be like a top 12 defense this year. The offense, I don't think, is going to have much, and I think they're almost doomed. But
there's going to be some Fitzmagic going on in that offense. What are you talking about? They already said that Fitzpatrick is light years ahead of Rosen. I'm like, that tells you everything you need to know. If Fitzpatrick is light years ahead of Rosen, that means Miami's doomed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, they absolutely are. They brought in Flores as a culture change, and he's probably going to get 3 years there, which is what you probably need to do with the next coach in Miami. Like realistically, you got to give him a couple.
While.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see the thing with Flores. Yeah, I could see Flores being successful. I mean, the unfortunate thing is I could see him being, he could just be kind of mediocre, and that would be enough for Miami fans because they've been bad for so long. But
exactly.
you need to expect more. And I was talking to somebody. I don't remember
what coaching staff there though. I like what they did with the coaching staff in Miami this year.
Well, yeah, I mean, I liked it too. They brought in Jim Caldwell, and that guy's very good with helping build a culture. I mean, he's not good at managing the game. He doesn't know when to call timeouts, but he knows how to build culture, and that's a huge thing.
And that was their major, first step this year. That's why they're like, we'll bring in Caldwell, we'll bring in Flores. We're going to start actually setting up a culture. We're not going to do this whole 100% the Patriots way like Detroit has done, like Houston's done, like every other team has done, and it's failed. And that, from everything I've read, is that they're taking bits and pieces of the Patriot way and creating their own culture with it, which I think is the best way for them to go about it. Like Miami in 3 or 4 years could actually be a potential playoff team, like a promising young roster.
Mm-hmm.
Just they have so much work to do right now.
I've never been a person that's willing to jump off being a Lion slappy, but if they keep this up, I live in Indiana, I may just jump over and become a Colts fan. I mean, that shit like
awesome.
Like, at least the Colts give you a reason for hope. Like, I'll be down there at training camp Saturday. I'll be down at training camp over the weekend a couple times, at least Saturday and possibly Sunday too. And I'm like, I'm at least interested to see what's going to happen there. I've had buddies back home ask me to come up to go to Lions training camp. I'm like, I don't want to watch. I don't want to see it because I know it's going to make me mad. Like, even the bits I've been seeing now, people are talking up their second-round pick, Jelani Tavai, and I'm like, as a starter, I'm like, that tells you everything. You're going to have a kid who doesn't deserve to be a starter, be a start. I'm like, no way, no way.
It's because they got nothing else.
Rick, in this talk about the NFL's hot garbage segment, Rojo, Detroit, Miami. Yes, this is the hot garbage segment of the show.
It is. Absolutely.
The Colts are not hot garbage, though. The Colts actually look to be very, very beneficial. I do need to jump up to a trade conversation that was posted a little earlier that I forgot to bring up. Hopefully Austin's still listening. If not, Austin, my bad. I had kind of jumped through and I didn't notice it. So he wants to poll us on a trade. So Cohen, Pettis, Eifert, a 2022nd, or so that's Cohen, Dante Pettis, Tyler Eifert, and a 2022nd, or Travis Kelce, Chris Carson, Devin Funchess.
Give me the Kelce side.
The Kelce side had Vance McDonald as a backup tight end before the trade. So the Kelce side would wind up having Vance McDonald and Tyler Eifert as their tight ends. Yeah, I would take the Kelce side because I'm not as well. I'm not. Kelsey's the biggest piece of that trade in my mind.
Yep.
Now this is a. Let's see here. Yeah, I would probably go with the Kelce side on that. Kelce pretty easily. Oh yeah, I agree with Rick. Kelce easy.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So Craig says Tavai is better than Gerard Davis already. Like I said, Gerard Davis is Ernie Sims just 10 years later. I mean, Gerard Davis has all the talent in the world, but he doesn't think. He just uses athleticism, and that's not going to get it. That's not going to work. Rick hates Indy. Rick, why do you hate Indy? I know you're a Bears fan, but what do you mean you hate Indy? You live in Indiana. You're like
I hate Indy, but there's a reason,
because of all those close games where they messed with you guys over the years.
No, it's not even that. I'm not going to go off on a very long Patriots tangent because I will, but Jim Irsay is the reason why Deflategate became a thing. I'm not gonna get that far into it. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. But I can just talk on a monologue for about an hour and 45 minutes about that.
A monologue about the funny thing is as I've started digging into fantasy football, I don't truly hate teams per se. I hate players. There's certain players where I'm like, this guy's just a giant bag of dicks. There's those situations.
Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce's definitely very arrogant. He cracks me up, but okay. Oh, Rick says no. I'm still pissed at all the local Colts fans that couldn't spell Peyton. Yeah. I mean, misspelling people's names sucks. I don't know if that's a reason to hate Colts fan or hate the Colts. You can hate their fan base. I don't like Pittsburgh Steelers fans after the game.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans when the game is over is brutal because those guys are jerks.
The most annoying fans.
Well, Sue is, Rick. You're right. Sue is a bag of them.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Colin.
The most annoying fans I've ever experienced during a game have and forever always will be Denver Broncos fans. Hardcore Broncos fans during games. I don't know if it's just the Broncos fans that show up at Gillette Stadium. It might be just when they show up and they're in Gillette Stadium. They usually cause legitimate fights. There's usually a point where there's an angry guy who's been drinking too many Bud Lights, just stands up and just clobbers the guy in the giant, oh yeah, no, we defend our team. I don't ever jump in there. Do I just kind of watch from afar sometimes?
I've not I'm not one to jump into scuffles, but Rick says when you can't spell the name of your franchise's best player ever, you don't deserve a franchise. Well, they didn't have a franchise, for a long time.
Well, yeah.
That is pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, just like all those years, people in Cincy couldn't spell TJ. Who's your mama? I mean, it's unfortunately sometimes you just get people that don't know how to spell.
Right.
I guess that's one reason to hate a team. So let me see what other news that we haven't touched on. Oh, see, I did want to touch just a little bit on the Chargers. So Russell Okung looks like he's probably going to miss training camp.
Yeah.
With all this Melvin Gordon hubbub, I'm seeing it almost feels like they're, something's got to give. The Chargers keep having a lot of really kind of bad PR coming their way. And for a team that's trying to make it to the Super Bowl, you'd think at some point the other shoe has to drop. They've got to do something. What I can tell you is that I'm not selling Justin Jackson low. I've had people coming at me asking for a third for him. I'm like, no, I'm going to hold on to him. Because Melvin Gordon could hold out, and that just makes it better for me.
Yep, absolutely. We could see another Le'Veon Bell situation. There's a decent chance of that. I mean, when training camp started this past weekend, when it was supposed to be that, Gordon was going to show up, he said he wasn't going to show up, and instead he was at San Diego Comic-Con for those 4 days.
I know, that was pretty hilarious.
I thought that was pretty funny. So, I mean, that's a guy who obviously is saying that as of right now, he is not too concerned about it. He's like, I'm not going to show up to work until you pay me what I'm worth. And, especially at the running back position, I understand why a guy's doing that. I might not love it. As someone who doesn't own any more Melvin Gordon, I did for years. The last share that I had, I got rid of in the offseason before any of this, fun holdout talk started to come up. I wish him all the best. I hope he gets all the money that he can. I just don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, you keep seeing all the news out of LA is they're not going to budge. They're not going to budge. They like their backups. And you saw, I mean, we've talked about it a little, and I remember doing a write-up on it when it first came out about Gordon holding out. Gordon, I agree, Sully. Not only are you the hardest working man in fantasy, but you're also the smartest. Gordon almost has no leverage because they've got guys that can do what he's doing. Now, maybe not be at the superstar level as him, but they're more than competent. Eckler and Jackson are a good duo, and a good starting combination if they need to do that. You know, Gordon would be smart to just get to camp.
Right. They can probably give the Chargers about 80%, 85% of the same production.
I can't argue that.
When you're going to get 80 to 85% of the same production without, any of the additional cost, for a franchise, it doesn't really make that much sense for them to invest that money.
Yeah. Paul says, they historically screw their players. See Bosa and Eric Weddle.
Yep.
That's a true story.
Yep. They absolutely
Gordon
do.
is still in the last year of his rookie contract. Different situation from Bell by far. Rob says he sits that contract and will toll, and he can do this again next year. Rick says if you own Melvin, you need to overpay. If you have Justin Jackson, you have to hold unless someone overpays. Gordon is going to sit for 5 weeks, is what Michael says. Yeah, I can't argue any of those ideas. I had Austin Eckler last year in a few leagues, and I sold really high when Gordon when Gordon started to have some injury issues. And those same time I picked up Austin Eckler, I was getting Justin Jackson, throwing him on my taxi squad, and he's there now in many leagues. I think 3 or 4 leagues right now, and every one of them I've already started having guys say, "What do you want for him?" And I'm like, "Give me a mid to upper 2, in 2020." I mean, that's probably I probably could push it to more like a high 2, like if it's something in the early there, or if you can flip them for a player. In most of the leagues I have them in, I don't necessarily think there's a player that I could get for him that makes a sense. So I'd probably go with a draft pick, or draft picks, depending on what that league looks like. Like my home league that starts drafting tomorrow, my 16-team league, overpaying. I'm charging an arm and a leg. Like the guy that wants him has already offered me a second. I'm like, yeah, no, I want more, and he's offering more because he knows that Melvin Gordon's kind of his guy. So if he doesn't, he's screwed. And that Austin Eckler's still there too. He'd go after him, but Eckler's probably going to cost more than Jackson, and Jackson is still going to have good value.
No, I agree. Last year I sold all my Jackson shares, so I'm regretting it now.
Yeah, Sully, you need to get Jackson too, just to make sure. The thing that sucks is now you're holding 3 running backs from a team, but you're holding 3 running backs from a team that you'll get value in those running backs if you have to play them.
Yep.
Paul says this is why you cuff them when the price is a used wet napkin.
Yeah, that's
used wet napkin.
When you got top 12 running backs, you should have them cuffed.
You have to. I mean, and that's a tough thing with some of those top 12 guys because you don't, there's not really a clear line of delineation as to who the guy is. Like in LA, we're pretty sure it's Darrell Henderson, but it could be other guys. I mean, they had John Kelly last year, who didn't do anything, but for me it depends on your league size. There's a lot of times where if I'm in like a 12-team, a lot of these like 12-team leagues that we've been doing with Roto Heat, I don't really cuff a guy. I mean, that's probably I could come back to bite me. Rick says this too. Cuffing is typically a waste, but this is a situation when you will probably get production. LA is a situation where you will probably get production, especially if this holdout lasts, which it seems everything we're seeing. It seems like neither side is going to budge, so it's probably going to happen.
Yep.
Rob says, what's the value difference between Gordon and Gurley right now? Well, I'd want Gurley.
Yeah.
He's got a chance to play this year.
Yeah.
Probably not a big difference. I mean, because Gordon's still going to have value, even if he sits at, worst case, which I don't see happening. I really don't see anybody doing anything Lev Bell crazy. Like, I see Gordon coming back at some point, but I don't see a huge difference between the two.
I actually might rather have Melvin Gordon right now. Like, Todd Gurley absolutely terrifies me. Like with all of the issues that he's had, Darrell Henderson was my second running back in that class. I uh,
Not a
I
lot
don't
of
want
options.
I don't want either of them at all. If it's one of those gun to my head, which one would I rather have right now? And if I can't flip either of them for anything, I might actually rather have Melvin Gordon only because, like you said, he's going to come back at some point during this season. I don't see him holding out all year. I think that there is a good chance that, you know, we could really see Todd Gurley be like massively deteriorated by the end of this season, just because of like the actual knee injuries that he has right now. Those are scaring me horribly. I don't own Gurley in any leagues, and I've been given a couple of offers that are really under market value for Todd Gurley, and I've been like, oh no, I'm good, thank you very much though. Um,
Well, but look at our rankings. If you've been watching the ticker, Gurley's fallen down, and even in our ADP that's been going on here recently, which you can find on rotoheat.com, he is dropping like a fly in all
yeah,
drafts, and it's wild. Like I don't dislike Gurley. I mean, like I said earlier in the show, I try to go more with consistent guys, but even if they limit Gurley's touches, he's still going to be successful. Like he's going to have good value. It's how long his knees are a ticking time bomb. We all know that.
right,
But I still
exactly.
think you can get a couple years out of him. I mean, I'm not as afraid of him.
As
But
I am.
both of the guys have injury issues, though. I mean,
Yeah,
Gordon's not exactly the epitome of health.
no, it's not.
Oh yeah, Rick says arthritis isn't as bad as Gordon's two bad knees. I mean, they both are. You could easily see them both being out with injury this year.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing is that right now, like you said, Gurley's value is already starting to absolutely drop, and that's the only thing is that I think Gordon. I mean, last year he had a really productive season. He hasn't had any like really major frightening injuries in over a year, which for him is kind of fantastic. Um, it's the honest truth. Um, he looks healthy now. I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I was the Gordon or the Gurley owner and someone wanted to just swap the two players. I don't know what I would do. I'd probably just be like I'm stuck with one of these guys. I don't really care about either one over the other, so I'm just gonna hold. I guess I don't
Well,
know.
and I like Paul's take. Why would you want to own Gordon or Gurley at this point unless your wide receivers are Julio, Hilton, and AJ Green, and your window is 2019, and bankruptcy after? I mean, yes, if you're in a win now mode, either one of those guys are guys that you're going to want. Gordon,
Right.
obviously, we don't know how far he's willing to take this, so that can be a little bit more concerning. I'm still a Gurley guy at this point between the two. Because even if they limit his touches, he's still going to be successful. He's a dynamic runner. I mean, he can make a lot of things happen, even if he gets, just 12 to 14 touches a game kind of thing. Yeah, Rick says Gurley, easy. Yeah, if you're a rebuild, these two guys are still guys you need to target, and you probably are still paying a pretty fair market value for them.
We'll see.
Yeah, Paul. Rick says he don't want any piece of Gordon. He'd trade him on any roster. So Rob says he owns Gordon and he's stacked a wide receiver. Not sure what to do with him. Well, I mean, depending on your roster, Sully, you probably have to hold him and see what happens. I mean, right now, if you're a Gordon owner, you're not getting what you would have gotten for him a month ago. So why would you try to trade him?
Right.
Yeah, he is literally. Oh yeah, Austin. Agree, Austin. You can't trade him. He's literally at his lowest value.
Yeah.
Paul says sell Rob while recency bias has him being good. And then Craig says Paul isn't allowed to speak about Gordon since he went to Wisconsin.
There.
Yeah, I'm if I'm a Gordon owner, which I'm not, I don't own him anywhere, so it's I'm playing with other people's money. I'm not trading him until we have some sort of conclusion.
Yeah. Now,
Rick says you need to sell him because it's more than he'll be worth in 12 weeks. So Rick must think that Gordon's going to be out for an extended period of time.
yeah, I was gonna say if I can get 80% or like 75% of his perceived value right now, I'm probably pulling the trigger on that. And I probably would agree with Sam on Gurley. If I can get 75% of the value on either one of those players, I'm probably pulling the trigger.
Yeah, Rick says 1 year from now he's Devonta Freeman. Ooh, woo, 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 woo. That's bad. I mean, that's Devonta Freeman's just a name. I agree with Rick. Wash my mouth out with soap. His value is only going down. Well, Paul, I wouldn't go that far. You could wash your mouth out with that wet napkin.
Yeah. It'll be a fun one. Don't ask why it's wet, though.
The chat was asking why it's wet. Maybe Paul needs to write an article on the site about why the napkins are wet.
Yeah.
Bad knees, bro. Not good. Well, I don't think. I don't necessarily know why. Either one of these guys. I mean, there's just so many concerns that I would look elsewhere. I don't own shares of either guy, mostly because when I couldn't draft either of them, and I wasn't going to trade for either of them because I will not overpay for a running back. So those are guys. I mean, if you own them, you're probably going to hold unless you can get a fair value for them, but you're probably not getting a fair value for them. So
that's the problem. Yeah.
Oh, and welcome to Facebook, Mike Pace. He is now officially a member of the greatest community on the planet.
Welcome.
Not that he's on our live stream, but I just approved him for the Facebook page.
Either way, welcome.
Yeah. So okay. So now we're talking Freeman. Freeman is what he is. A 2-year rental before his body gives out.
Yeah.
I don't know if Freeman will make it through the season. I mean, Ito Smith could be the next Tevin Coleman. Quite honestly, like people could get all excited about him or the other kid that they've got there. And I mean, I'm not touching Atlanta running backs. Like I was never a big Ito Smith fan. I'm not a Devonta Freeman fan. Like I just don't touch.
Ito guy.
What's that?
I'm a big Ito guy.
Somebody's gotta like him.
Yeah, see, most of those like smaller school running backs, I usually end up falling in love with and end up grabbing. I'm the guy that I've owned a ton of Tariq Cohen. I own a ton of Ito Smith. I usually end up getting those guys. This year he went undrafted. I still have Montez Carter on a few rosters. Like those are the sort of guys that usually I end up getting in rookie drafts. I really do like Ito Smith. I think that he has a high floor. We'll see. I agree where I don't think that Freeman's gonna be able to stay healthy for an extended amount of time. And I think that with the depth that they have there, I kind of see Ito as like an okay RB3 this year, which I'm happy with because that's like my 7th running back on most rosters.
And just like New England will be looking for a tight end next year in the draft, Atlanta will be looking for a running back next year. I mean, it just is what it is, Ito Smith is not a guy you could rely on as their top guy.
No.
Like they need something else.
He's a secondary weapon, which is what he will end up being. He'll be a secondary guy. That's kind of what he is. He's a pass catching running back. He's not going to be getting a ton of carries. That's just not his play style. His body can't really take it. They're going to need to get another guy to actually run between the tackles.
Right. So Craig says, when do we get to the cold garbage segment? I think that's what Freeman is. He's cold garbage. Sully says, listen to the next episode of Sully's 2 Cents. Maybe some Freeman talk there. If you don't listen to every episode of Sully's 2 Cents, available on iTunes and Google Podcasts and anywhere else you get podcasts, you're crazy because Sully's 2 Cents rocks. Sully's the man. He does a good job with a quick, hot take on things, and it's always good content. So if you're not listening to Sully's 2 Cents or the Dynasty Blockheads or the Heat Seekers when it becomes a podcast or Beneath the Rim, Klaus, if you're listening, I'm sorry I just butchered the name of your podcast. You need to find it. Go to rotoheat.com and find all our awesome content. There's some good stuff out there. Austin wants to know Cohen versus Carson in a PPR. They're two different running backs, man. Like Carson's going to get you a ton of touches, but begin to lose them to Penny. Cohen is the guy I would want in PPR, though.
Is it a half point or is it a full point PPR? Because that actually changes.
He doesn't say. Okay. Paul says Cohen by a mile.
Yeah, I would say I lean towards Cohen. If it's a half point, I understand the case for Carson, but I'm still saying Cohen.
Carson's going to get you touches. I don't see him getting many catches. I mean, he'll get some catches, but Penny's going to get that. I mean, you saw it last year. Even in the opportunities he got, it was awesome. I mean, you really did well with it. Oh, Rick gave me the release date. All right, you guys are going to hear it here probably first. The Heat Seekers podcast will launch August 1st, so make sure you mark it in your calendars. And then also make sure you tune in on Sundays because I heard a rumor that Rick and Nikolai are going to be back doing Sunday morning stuff prior to the games. They're going to help you make sure you start the right players, get the right lineup set, and help you make some money because that's what Rick does. He makes it rain. Like I like being by Rick because I know I'm going to make money when I'm by him. All right, so let's go on to the next one. Ito blows and Allison is a threat to Ito, not Freeman. Yeah, I'm not. Like I said, I'm not touching Atlanta running backs. I prefer not to, I should say. Judge Ito is also one of the best nicknames out there. That is a good nickname. Let's see here. And Rick threw up many money signs. I dig it. Okay, so if you guys got questions, make sure you ask them. Oh, we're already well over the hour mark, so that's typically what happens when Colin and I start talking.
This is what happens.
We start getting things going. Oh, look at that. Mike Pace is up in the chat. Our newest member to the community. Craig says, I'd like to request a Roto Heat polycast. I got to get Paul on the show first. Like, we got to get Paul streaming. We need to do a roundtable where it's you, me, and Paul.
Yeah,
and
let's do it.
Paul trolling you for 2 hours while I try to keep this thing on the rails.
That's fine. Let's figure out how to make that happen. Let's get the three of us going on one day.
This is called the Dynasty Roundtable, so we probably need more than just round picture frames for our pictures. We need more people.
Yeah. Let's figure out how to do that.
We will. I mean, we'll get it together. We also got to get Anthony Leone on here. Like, I love Anthony. He's a good dude. I want to get him on the stream. Like, we got lots of guys that we need to get on here.
Yeah.
But we also got to start talking Devi too. I've been telling people for a while that I'm going to get Devi going here soon.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to
discuss that after the show, and we'll come up with like an exact date probably.
We'll lay it down.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Rick wants to be on with Paul. Rick, you know what we need to do, Rick? We need to just have like this massive stream with like 4 or 5 different guys on, and just go to town, like some sort of like a major event.
I feel like having like a Paul, Rick, Bridger, and I like debating and just having you kind of as like the judge and mediator would be a interesting show.
I'm Chris Wallace. Welcome to
exactly. It would be loud, but it would be a very interesting way to see how everything goes.
And I'll have to pull out rule number 1 plenty of times, I'm sure. Sully, go under the hood and record a good pod, man. Have fun. Thank you for joining us. I will tell you guys, and we still got a fair amount of people on here. We've got a lot of stuff in the hopper that we're going to be trying to kick out this football season, and as we move forward, you're seeing it on rotoheat.com already. You're seeing the ADP, and you're going to see more ADP stuff. We're constantly mocking. We're working on, I've been working with Rick and some guys on some IDP statistical stuff. I've got a lot of stats and a lot of numbers. I just got to figure out what we're doing with them. So there's a lot of stuff that's coming to rotoheat.com, and we're keeping everything updated regularly. We're very active on Twitter. I'm over on Reddit doing stuff in a lot of the fantasy football chats. Obviously the Facebook group, the Discord chats, we've got VIP stuff out there. I mean, we got a lot of stuff, and it's growing quickly, which is probably why we're experiencing, growing pains here and there, and we got to bounce around and have different hosts on, but that's okay. So there may not be a game show coming. There may or may not be a game show coming too. Rick is out here dropping the hot takes in on the roundtable. If you guys aren't watching tonight, you're missing out on all the hot stuff coming from the man behind Roto Heat. Sully says Battle Royale pod. Add a guy every 2 minutes. Oh my gosh, that would be an amazing podcast. Every 2 minutes, a new person comes on to troll Colin.
Interesting.
That'd be amazing.
See, I like the idea of what we do is like fantasy fights, and we have to make our case, and we have to have someone as the judge. Whoever it is that wins, whoever is the loser, they get booted out for the next guy, and we do like last man standing and we have like 5 questions. It might go on for 3 hours with 5 questions.
So it's the guillotine version of a stream.
Exactly, it's a guillotine stream. I like it.
Paul says, you don't get super good at fantasy football without a competitive mindset and a type A semi-bully personality, at least when it comes to drafting and trading.
Usually. There's exceptions to everyone.
I struggle with that because I guess I am a bit of a type A personality, but I'm not a bully. Like I'm very chill about things. I don't. I try to respect people's opinions if I don't agree with them. And if I do agree with them, that's great because you're probably right. But it's like I have plenty of guys in my leagues that are complete jerks, and I still deal with them, but it's like I'd rather enjoy my fantasy football experience because I'm spending money to not get treated like crap. So if you don't like what I do, well, get over it, Paul, I see where you're going with that. I don't know that I necessarily agree 100%, but there are a lot of jerks out in a lot of my leagues, so I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I wouldn't say bully. I would say strong personality, though. I think type A and strong personality definitely helps in trade talks. I wouldn't say the word bully personally, though.
Rick says Geis is greater than Saquon. Colin's already out.
Hey,
oh man, that's awesome.
That's one of the if you want to make that one of the subjects, I will do my absolute best to actually make that argument.
And you will crash and burn.
This year I'm not going to.
But so you could have a box of rocks argue Saquon, and he would probably still beat you, Colin.
Probably, that's probably possible.
That's so good.
We all make mistakes. I still am out on a limb that as far as they came down to prospect evaluations, I still preferred him as a prospect. Obviously, their first years did not go as planned.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so
I
awesome.
was in his rookie year. I have no problem admitting that. I still think coming out of LSU, Geis pre-ACL injury was my favorite of the prospects.
So good. It's important.
Right.
It's important to take owner. Oh yeah, Rick said it.
Oh yeah.
Own it.
No, I will 100% own up to that one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was putting that out everywhere. I'm not taking that one back. Like I said, it didn't work out for me last year. It's not going to work out this year. In 2020, maybe it'll work out. Maybe I still have the long game going for me. Probably
All right,
not.
and with that being said, it's time to end the show before we scare everybody off with that crazy take about guys being better than Saquon ever. The only way that's going to happen is if Saquon blows out something.
Which was honestly one of the things that I had been saying for a while, was that I do think that there's a chance that he will, end up accumulating injuries. That was part of the thing. I didn't see Geis accumulating the injuries right off the bat. So, that. Yeah,
I struggle to think that Saquon's really going to get any major injuries because, see, the way that he runs, he's like, I haven't seen a running back like him. When I watch him run, it makes me think very Barry-like. Barry Sanders had this way about somehow never really getting a huge hit. And Saquon really did a good job of avoiding contact, but still making contact. Like, you'd see him bowl over a guy running, but it's like he did it. He was very smart with his run.
No, my thing with him, and still is, I don't think it's that he's going to get injured when he's running the ball. I think it's going to be on something maybe like a design screen that the Giants' offensive line is still a joke for the most part. And I think there's a good chance that goes haywire and he gets clobbered once or twice behind the line. And that was where my concern was with him. It was going to be, it wasn't he's going to get killed running around the corner. It's always been on those design screen passes that sometimes they can go horribly wrong. That's always been my biggest concern, is because they do have so many designed plays for him that any player it can happen to, especially with guys who have as many design plays as they do. That's what's happened to Le'Veon Bell on multiple occasions.
Yeah. All right, so to get us back on the rails, Austin Mayhew's got a question. How far apart are Keenan Allen and Cooks in value? I like Cooks a lot.
Yeah, I have them right next to each other.
I'm about to say, I'm a big Cooks guy. Like, I mean, at the end of the year, his numbers always look good. He's kind of a boomer bust guy, but, like, I know what I'm going to get with Cooks. Keenan Allen, with the injuries, like, he's another one of those guys that I file in he's great, but I'm not going to pay to get him. Cooks is easier to acquire and going to give you really good value still.
Yep. No, I agree. I have them really close in my rankings. I want to say within 3 or 4 spots in the positional rankings, and like you said, Cooks is a lot easier to acquire. For some reason, people don't value him as highly as I do. I mean, he consistently finishes as like a top 14 wide receiver, but for some reason, you can usually get him around the price of like a wide receiver 17. I have no idea why that happens.
Right.
that's a guy that I acquire every single time that I'm in the middle of a rebuild, and I'm like, okay, we got all the picks. Let's start restocking this roster. He's usually one of, if not the very first guy that I target, because
Yeah,
usually I can get him for a price I'm happy with.
well, what's going to happen is Keenan Allen's going to give you consistently week to week better value.
Yes.
But I think Cooks is going to give you a better dynasty, long term value. He's going to be a longer term wide receiver for you. Where Allen, the clock's ticking on when is he going to get hurt again, and when is it going to be a big injury. Craig says Allen's injury history is overblown. Basically, 2 fluke things years ago. Well,
It's true, but you also have to factor in the quarterback. Where Rivers also, we don't know how many years that Rivers is going to be able to keep up with what he's able to do. I don't think Jared Goff is an amazing quarterback, but with that being said, he's going to still be putting up numbers for a couple of years. There's a couple factors with me. Like the injury factor with Allen, like he's right. They have been, for the most part, freak injuries. A couple soft tissue issues here and there that he's missed 1 or 2 games here and there. The injuries aren't really the major concern on Allen for me, and it's not as much about that I think that he's overvalued as it is I just think Cooks is usually undervalued.
yeah, I can't really argue those points. You make a very good point on both the chat and the community and your point on it. I don't think the value is that hugely different, though. I mean, if that's what you're looking at, you're going to get Cooks cheaper than you will Allen. That's what I'm going to say. Cooks is going to be considerably cheaper than Allen to get. Because most cases, anytime I've talked to a guy about Allen, there's no way that you're getting Allen for anything less than, high-end first-round pick plus something, plus a player, plus a young guy, things like that. The community's comparing Cooks to Deshaun Jackson. They'll say Paul says he'll never morph into a possession guy, and his speed won't last past age 28 or so. Well, see, the thing with Cooks though is like he's another guy that you're not going to see. He just doesn't really get hurt very often. So unless he gets an injury that zaps that speed, I mean, even now Deshaun Jackson still has his speed. He just bounces from team to team, and because he never became a possession guy, he's got speed, and his quarterbacks just don't know how to haven't been able to get him the ball. Jameis Winston.
See, I think the Cooks will transition more into being a slot guy in the future. I kind of see his career going as he gets older. I think he'll have more of like a Golden Tate sort of game, where I don't think he's not gonna be a top 15 guy when he gets to the age of 31, but could he still be a top 28 to 32 wide receiver? I absolutely think he can be. I think long-term value, he's one of these guys that, you can probably keep him rostered and he'll be a borderline to, absolute definite starter for the next 4 or 5 years still.
Yeah, and Paul says, my concern on Allen is Williams, Henry, and Gordon are going to take enough of the pie to take more value than people want to admit. Yeah, but the same can be said on Cooks' side. I mean, you've got Kupp, you've got Everett, you've got Gurley, Henderson, you've got you got plenty of.
You got Kupp on that team too.
Yeah, you got a lot of time. I mean, both teams have enough.
Right.
That's on the offensive guys to make sure that the big names and the best players are getting those targets. Austin follow-up says Cooks and Ty are pretty similar if they had the same QB. I think Ty is he's a better receiver. Like he has better hands. He catches contested balls better. I mean, Ty could easily lose his speed and become a possession receiver, where I don't know if Cooks could.
We'll see. I think that's actually a fairly good comparison. I do agree with Ty is the better contested wide receiver, but Cook still has this burner speed that is absolutely astounding. And until he really starts to lose a lot of that, he's a guy that I'm going to be owning almost everywhere.
All right, so Craig says a wide receiver of his supposed skill set being traded twice in 2 years makes me think there's something up if Sean Payton, not Peyton Manning, Rick, don't get mad, and Bill Belichick gave up on him.
All right.
Paul says Craig, LA gave up more than they should, and New England gave up more than they should because Bill Belichick can somehow not evaluate wide receivers to save his life.
So
Woods.
I can't.
Woods is the other guy over in LA. Sorry, I didn't say Robert Woods, but he's very good too.
Yes. So I can actually give an insight as to why it was that Cooks was traded from New England. They weren't going to give him the like we said, the whole
They weren't going to pay him.
Well, no, they were willing to pay him, but they weren't willing to pay him the money that he wanted. It was, I believe, that they were going to offer him an average annual of like 12.5 to 13, and I think he's making like 15.5. He didn't do the whole Tom Brady where, Brady's been taking less money to make the team as strong as possible for years. Cooks wasn't willing to do that, and then when they got the offer that they could flip him for essentially the exact same thing they paid a year before they took it. That's why. And that's why Bill Belichick is not, that bad of a GM, is because he makes moves like this. We bring him in, we end up, I believe that was the year that they won a ring. I believe that they won a ring with Cooks, and then sent him off.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue that. You see that time and time again in New England.
Yeah.
I like Cooks. Long term, I think he's still going to be a solid wide receiver too for quite some time. I mean, he has that ceiling where he could be a nice wide receiver too. But I will tell you, if you're somebody who's trying to buy Cooks, you're going to get him cheaper than Allen, but he's also going to give you great weeks and he's going to give you terrible weeks.
Right.
And that's something to be concerned about. I mean, that's a real issue with him, is because of the mouths they have to feed in LA. I mean, just like Keenan Allen, like Paul mentioned in the chat, just like Keenan Allen. I mean, both those teams are very dynamic. They have a lot of weapons, and they're all going to get theirs. They're all going to get targets, and there's just a lot. There's a lot there to worry about. So make sure if you're getting Cooks or Allen, you have to be smart about your team building. Your wide receiver. I went and got Cooks this offseason in one league where I had T.Y. Hilton already. I had other guys that I could rotate in there. Corey Davis is on that roster. I think I had Devin Funch. I love Corey Davis. You put that lip back. I'm a Corey Davis truther. Cortland Sutton, those guys I love. Well, I like Mike Williams too. Well, I like both of those guys.
I've been the Mike Williams over Corey Davis since they were prospects. That's another one. Just like I was wrong about the Geis one. If I'm wrong about the Mike Williams over Corey Davis, I'm fine with that. But as of right now, I'm looking fairly good on that one. Like that was the year before. That was my out on my island, like for the most part by myself. Putting my claim right there. Mike Williams will be the better player.
Well, Corey Davis ain't getting any help from his team. I mean, Mariota's no Phillip Rivers.
That was one of my biggest reasons why I was like, look, Vrabel's going to be a really good defensive coach. They didn't bring in an offensive coordinator that impresses me. I don't think Marcus Mariota is any good. I still don't think Derrick Henry's any good. Like they don't really have anything on that roster to be able to help him out. Finally, they brought in a couple, I guess, wide receivers that are going to do something. I mean, if you really think that Adam Humphries is an answer, I guess.
A.J. Brown, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't get why they did that. Like, you just paid over $10 million.
Tajay Sharp, Adam Humphries. I mean, you got a bunch of receivers.
I don't get it. Like, you pay over, specifically the A.J. Brown one. Like, that was one of the most baffling things about the draft to me, was it's like, well, we're going to overpay Adam Humphries, and then we're going to also bring in another slot receiver and spend an early draft pick on him. And like that was one of the draft decisions that, like, I was watching the draft live, and they're like, A.J. Brown. And I'm like, you could have drafted, like, any other receiver in this class, and it would have made a lot of sense to me. I have no idea what's going on right now.
Yeah, and I agree with Rick. If Mariota does not improve, he's done in Tennessee after this year.
Yes.
But
that's one of the teams that I think Stafford might be going to next year. I could very well see Matthew Stafford the next Titans quarterback.
Well, yes, I could make that case, but I could just as easily make a case that it's Herbert or one of these other rookie quarterbacks. I think they're going to get a different quarterback, and Mariota doesn't improve.
Yeah. No, I think that what they would do is I agree. They'll probably draft a guy too. But I think they'd probably sign Stafford to a 2-year deal. Be like, look, you're going to coach this guy for the next year plus, and then that's going to be it. I don't know. I've never been a Mariota believer.
Mm.
Um, I he's a fantastic college quarterback. There's a lot of these guys that are dynamic college quarterbacks that just don't have either the body or the skill set to adjust to the next level. He was never a question of the skill set. It was always going to be the question of his body, and it's already breaking down now. And it's
Yeah.
been year after year that it's been the same issues.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's, as we start to think, as the season gets in and we start to see a lot of these situations coming up, guys like Stafford on the move type thing, I could make the case that Stafford goes to a lot of the teams, this next offseason when Detroit blows things up. San Francisco, I could make the case for your team, the Patriots. If Bill Belichick really wants to rib Brady, they let Brady go and say, listen, I'll get Stafford. He's a big arm. I can make him win with that.
Let me tell you, though, if Jimmy G does end up hitting the open market next year,
Going back to New England.
I will almost guarantee you that happens.
Because wasn't that Belichick's guy? He didn't want to move him?
He was trying to trade Brady. He tried to trade Brady, and the Gronk trade was already done to your team, Detroit, before Kraft decided to jump in and say he couldn't do it. Yep, that was a thing, because that was the year that they expected Baker wasn't going first overall. They thought Darnold was going first. They had that trade in place with the Giants to get the second overall pick after they traded Gronk for the 17 plus, and the entire landscape of the league would be horribly different. Baker Mayfield would be a Patriot. I have no idea where Saquon Barkley would be. Yeah, they were going to be trading up to 2 for Baker. When Baker went 1, everything just went out, and they just stayed put and took Sony Michel.
I like Paul.
Crazy.
Imagine how different the NFL would be if Philly would have allowed Chip Kelly to trade for Marcus Mariota.
Yeah.
Would have been way different. Well, if he stayed healthy, it would be way different. I think he still would have gotten hurt because Chip Kelly would have tried to run that same offense, and
Probably.
Philly couldn't have protected him.
Yeah. I think back to that draft last year all the time, and I'm like, man, they were going to trade 29, 31, 17, and their second round pick for the second overall pick to get Saquon, or to get Baker instead of taking Saquon.
I'm glad Cleveland did it. I don't have any connection to Cleveland, but I'm glad to see that somebody from the cellar is going to finally make it.
More than anything, you should be happy that the Lions didn't trade 17 overall for Gronk.
I know, so he could retire the next year.
Yeah.
It's like that would have been that. You know what? Maybe I'm disappointed they didn't, because then all of them would have been fired this year instead of next year.
That you would definitely have a new GM for sure. Maybe not a new head coach, but a new GM is a guarantee at that point.
Oh man.
Yep.
And that's the funny thing is Bob Quinn hasn't made a lot of really bad moves. He's made some questionable decisions, but he hasn't made any huge wins either.
Yeah.
Like the team is meh, and that's just not good enough.
The Kurt Coleman contract is the most egregious in all of free agency for me.
Oh, for a slot corner?
Yeah. That was, of all the decisions I saw in free agents, I think that's worse than the Foles contract. I saw that and I was like, wow.
Well, but when you look at when you look at what Detroit was trying to get, they were trying to get the best slot corner in football, and he's up there. Unfortunately, I think they paid too much for it. But when you look at their defense, Detroit plays in a kind of a nickel type package where they're having that slot a lot. I mean, they stayed in that package. That isn't their base set, but man, they played it a lot. I mean, you could almost think they just sat in nickel defense most of last year.
That's true.
So I understood why they spent the money. I mean, and I couldn't justify them going after other guys. Like, there weren't a lot of guys in free agency where I was like, oh, you should really go overpay and buy that guy. Like, there just wasn't that out there this year. So Mike says, someone wants early 2020 first and second for Godwin. Is the hype train for real or not worth the price? I wouldn't.
How early?
Well,
like, are we 4? Or are we talking like 5 through 8?
He said early 2020 first. Mike, can you tell me? You know what? I don't know that. In my case, I don't think I need to know. I wouldn't spend for early first and a second on Godwin. I don't think. But Mike, if you could tell us if it's like a top 5 2020 first or later.
Right.
I don't know that I would spend an early 2020 first and a second for Godwin. He's very good. I'm very excited about him, though. I think the hype is real, but I don't know if it's that real.
in a non-superflex league, if it's like pick 5 or below, I might do that. If it's a superflex league, I couldn't do it.
I would be really comfortable with the first. He says top 4. I would be comfortable with the first. I would try to get it with the first. I don't know that I would want to throw a second in there too. I mean, that it's not like it's overpaying, but it's pushing overpaying, because if you're saying a top 4 first in a draft that's supposed to be very, very attractive, and a second, I mean, I would want the picks more than I would want Godwin.
Probably. The thing is, to me, there's 3 players.
I agree with Rick and Paul. Picks for sure.
Yeah, if it's non-superflex, there's 3 guys I want for sure over Godwin there, which is I would want Etienne, I would want Jerry Jeudy, and I would want DeAndre Swift.
I do love some Jerry Jeudy.
I love him. And then the question then goes to after if it's superflex and it's a top 4 pick, absolutely not. Like, I'm not even considering that.
Justin Herbert. Oh.
There's a very definitive like top 6 players next year that I would not even consider trading any of those 6 for Godwin right now.
Yeah.
But if it's one of those, like, if it's non-super flex and it was going to be 4 and it wasn't going to be a chance of a top 3, I'd be tempted to do that. I agree. I wouldn't give the second round pick too, though. If it's just 104 next year for Godwin, I would be tempted to do that, though.
Well, and I think it also, Mike, depends on the team makeup. Like, what is Godwin going to do for your team? Because you have to remember, right now we don't know exactly what he's going to do in that Tampa Bay offense. Are they really going to give him enough targets for him to be a wide receiver 1? Because that's really what you're saying. You're paying wide receiver, back end wide receiver 1 pricing for him.
Yeah. I think he's going to be a wide receiver 2 this year, and I think afterwards he could be a back end wide receiver 1. Yeah, he was a guy that, again, as a prospect, I loved him, and the fact that Arians is now on record like 3 different times said, "Oh, he's not coming off the field. We're gonna he's not coming off. He's staying on the field.
He's gonna get peppered with targets."
Exactly. That's it's a tough one for me. That's a really tough one for me. I
like Godwin. I wouldn't pay a first and a second for him. I mean, I would want the picks, especially with next year's draft. Yeah. Paul says it's 20 to 25 players deep, the 2020 draft. I think it could even, I mean, when all things are said and done, when we get underclassmen too, it could be deep. I mean, it could be very deep.
Right. That's the way I'm looking at it, is if it's non-superflex and that's 104, it's do I want Godwin or Colin Johnson? And that's a pretty close comparison for me.
Yeah.
Like
Mike says Colin, this. Mike, just to add a little more context to his wide receiver group. So Godwin would then join a wide receiver core with Stephon Diggs and Amari Cooper. So he's like his wide receiver 3 at that point. I'm not paying that price for a wide receiver 3. Or what you're expecting to be. So Stephon Diggs and Cooper. What's that?
What else does he have? Because I really like Godwin as a wide receiver 3 with Diggs and Cooper at their ages right now. Like, I might be a little more tempted to give up that first and second now that he's going with Diggs and Cooper.
Mike is not giving up his entire roster right now. He hasn't told us what else he's got, but man, that just feels like, with as young as Diggs and Cooper are, to have a first and second in next year's draft to add to those guys, I mean, that could be huge. Yeah, Rick says he's way overvalued right now. I definitely, if people are paying an early 2020 first and second, he's way overvalued. Like, I don't want to spend that on him, especially 2020 and 2021's draft classes. I mean, as I started forcing myself to really put a lot of time and effort into the Devy side of things, there's just so much out there to like.
There is.
He also has Alshon Jeffrey and Cortland Sutton. I love Sutton more than Chris Godwin, so I wouldn't go spend a first and second.
Oh, I prefer Godwin to Sutton 100 times over. It's not close to me personally.
Folks, this may be the last time Colin's on the show.
Like, that.
Sutton, I love Sutton. Like, he's going to be a monster.
But on the other hand, I've also been really high on Godwin for a few years now. So I haven't ever come off that Godwin train. It's just kind of like a lot of people are starting to value him where I valued him last year. Like, people are just starting to be like, yeah, he's like wide receiver 20. I'm like, yeah, he was like my wide receiver 18 last year. So he's starting, the prices on him are starting to come to where it was that I would have been willing to pay the last couple of years, but luckily most people didn't value him as highly as I did. I'm trying to think, like, yeah, I I don't think I would do that with Godwin being like my wide receiver 3 to 4, but it's tempting. I understand the appeal to that deal.
Yeah, and if I were you, I would try to move Alshon Jeffrey because he's hot and cold garbage. Like, he's both pieces of garbage put together. So if somebody's willing to take him off your hands, I would drop him like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah. What I would say is either you trade Jeffrey, or if you have Arcega-Whiteside, then you can pair the two and hold. But unless you own JJ, I would be moving Jeffrey like as hard as possible.
Go to that Godwin owner and see if you can do the second in Alshon Jeffrey. flip Jeffrey over to the Godwin owner.
Yeah, be like, hey man, I'll give you 3 second-round picks in Alshon Jeffrey. How about that?
Anything but my 2020 first.
Yeah, and my 2021 second too. I'll give you all the second-round picks I got on my team in Jeffrey.
I don't know what Rick's saying about wrong. Rick, do you think my take on Alshon Jeffrey's wrong? I don't think Rick likes Alshon Jeffrey. I don't know what he's saying wrong about. He said wrong with an exclamation point. So Austin missed our conversation about the Carson, Kelsey, Funchess for Cohen, Pettis, Eifert conversation, and we both kind of agreed that the Kelsey side,
Kelsey and Carson, easily for me. Yep, that's an easy choice for me.
Oh, Paul says Jeffrey is a fine player.
He's fine.
Jeffrey's
like, if you're gonna rely on him as like a wide receiver 3, that's fine. But
I'm just like I'm past caring about him. Like I'm like, I want to move him. I mean, he's getting older. You know, he still is injury riddled. Like, I'm moving him.
That's fair.
Rick said, Rick was saying that. So Jeffrey outproduces his value easy. Mike says, I'll try. Same guy gave me the same 2020 picks for Watkins. I love Watkins, though, so I'm a big Watkins fan, which Colin was because he was trying to trade me Watkins. So
yeah, I would much rather have that first and second than Watkins.
So Austin says Carson versus Cohen in a PPR. I think we talked about this.
Yeah,
Cohen in a PPR for sure. Carson's going to get you a lot more carries, but Cohen's got the better PPR value.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yep.
Rick, Jeffrey, he may outproduce his value, but I'm just not like, I'm not interested in Jeffrey as anything more than a really back end wide receiver. So you know, I'm not on Jeffrey's. I've never been a big Jeffrey guy though. I liked him when he was in Chicago, but you know, that was for very early in his career.
Yep.
And Paul says he'd rather have the second than Watkins straight up. Paul, how dare you? How dare you talk bad about Sammy Watkins like that?
No, I know he's been saying this about Watkins for a while.
I anticipate, even with Tyreek Hill's wildness coming back, I still expect Watkins, his second year in this offense, to really, really play nicely.
Yeah, because it's not like you can rely on Mecole Hardman to do anything.
Not this year. Rick says he's his wide receiver 3, Brad. Jeffrey is fine. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I won't argue the boss. Rick, you're right. You know, he's fine as a wide receiver 3, especially with Cortland Sutton there.
I was going to say, Jeffrey and Sutton together as a wide receiver 3 is solid.
Yeah. Ultimately, Mike, I would not be buying Chris Godwin for a first and a second. You might as well hold. And if your team is competing, so we don't know what you've got at running back, quarterback, any of the other positions. If your team is competing and you're really trying to make sure that you've got kind of that from top to bottom roster, take that first and a second, make another position better, running back, whatever the case may be. Your wide receiver core is fine.
Yep.
So that's that. Save that 2020 until you need it. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Now, your window of trading draft picks and getting really good return is past. I mean, like, trading draft picks right now is just not... If guys are willing to do it, because right now is the time of year where nobody's trading guys for draft picks, unless you are rebuilding. Like, in the league that I joined with you and Paul, I was okay with trading guys to get picks because I'm blowing this piece of crap up, you know.
Yeah, you and me both. We're both trying to blow our rosters up.
Right. You know, so only time I'm okay, I see picks moving is for teams that, you know, are switching owners or rebuilding, something like that. You know, you don't trade your draft picks until after the season's over. Like from January till like June is probably like the sweet spot for trading draft picks. Otherwise, you're just not getting good value back. Yeah, Rick says it just gains value every day. Paul says the other part of 2020 picks is you can save them for week 8 when someone is 1-6 and needs to sell for picks. True statement. Trade deadlines is a great time to get picks or trade to get guys. Austin says, how far apart for Funchess and Pettis? Do you see them both as dart throws? No, Pettis I think has very good upside. I think Funchess has upside. I just don't think I don't think his ceiling is as high as Pettis. I like both players though. I mean, I'm not against either if you can get them.
Yep.
Yeah, Rick, Rick is correct on both. Pettis' pure value is way higher, and Funchess is about to be a monster if Frank Wright puts him as the big slot receiver we're expecting him to be. If he's in the slot and he can play as that big slot receiver, Funchess should be easier to buy.
Yeah.
Paul says, let's excite Colin. Debo.
I was thinking that, but I didn't say anything. I was like, you know, Pettis is nice and all, but he's not the most valuable wide receiver in San Francisco. But I didn't feel like going off on that tangent about the 101 again.
Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to go into that crazy train. We did that enough this offseason earlier. What I can say is, you know, Pettis is nice, Debo is nice, Funchess is nice, but Funchess will be the easiest to acquire of those guys. Like, he's going to have the cheapest price tag.
Absolutely. I think you can make the argument that depending on the team and how, you know, needy they are running back, that Carson could be perceived as the second most valuable player in that trade too, as opposed to Pettis. Depending on a team's makeup, you could make the argument that, you know, you could probably get the same price, if not higher, for Carson than Pettis. It's going to depend on that Pettis owner, because there's a lot of people I know that are hardcore Dante Pettis lovers, and some of them are a little bit more hesitant. So I think depending on how that Pettis owner really values him, Carson might be the second most expensive player in this deal.
Probably. Rick brings up a good statistical point. From week 15 to 17 last year, Inman was wide receiver 26.
Mm-hmm.
Inman. So Funchess definitely has wide receiver 2 upside, and is going to be considerably cheaper.
Yes.
So. So, with that being said, do we have any other questions? Because now we're getting on to hour number 2 of the of the Brad and Colin Spectacular Super Show.
How this goes every time.
Yeah, it's pretty regular. And you know what? And that's what makes us unique. Other fantasy football sites, other streams and podcasts, they'd shut it down. They'd cut it. No, we're gonna go all night.
If we got the comments coming in, we'll just keep rolling. Doesn't even matter.
We don't care. That's how hardcore the Roto Heat team is. We will go all night if that's what it takes to make our customers happy.
Yes, if that quenches your thirst, we'll just keep on going.
Yeah, and if you haven't been on the Discord chat to see the new sexy Roto Heat emojis, which I've been using, you need to get over there. There are plenty of them. And I don't know that I can show them on the screen because they're awfully little on my phone. But you need to get over there because there is Rick, our fearless leader, has been throwing together some sweet emojis. And I told him to make one of the Sully O-Face. The Sully O-Face emoji would be amazing.
That'd be pretty funny.
Paul wants us to do a 4 a.m. deep IDP and Devi dive. We will be having a Devi shows coming up. And we will have IDP shows coming. The issue we run into, Paul, is the same like when I'm trying to get my IDP mock drafts going. As soon as I start talking IDP for a long time on the show, I immediately get comments of, Why are we still talking IDP? Why aren't we moved on to something else? Rick says we went 2 hours after Brad ditched us last night. I got called Colin last night. It was epic. That was dangerously epic. Like I was like, man, Rick, that cuts me down to my core.
Damn.
Core. All right, so I gotta find. Rick tells me to send him the image of the Sully O face. All right, challenge accepted. We're gonna get the Sully O face emoji.
That'll be a fun one.
It's gonna be epic. It's gonna be very very classy. All right, so now everybody's just getting slap happy. Everything's getting silly. So, over Marvin, Dynasty owners just starting for week 1. Austin, I don't know what you mean. Hold on, there must have been a comment that I didn't see. Let's see here. No, I don't see a comment. So Rick says Pettis easy, and then Austin Mayhew says over Marvin, not for Dynasty, just for starting. Yeah, I guess Austin, I don't know. You're gonna have to give me some more context. I either missed the comment about Marvin. I'm assuming you're talking Marvin Jones, but I don't know who you're talking about. Paul says getting silly. When was it not silly? Well,
fair enough.
With me and Colin around, it's probably that's where it starts.
Yep, that is.
I would rather silly than weird. If it's getting weird, then we've got problems.
That's fair.
Rick says, Paul and I agreed an hour and a half ago. Been silly forever. Yeah, true story. So, okay. So, if you guys have questions, shoot them over. Yep. I think at this point of the show, it's best to do the sales pitch and peace out. I will tell you guys to be keeping it locked into the Facebook, the Facebook which you're all watching right now, or if you're on YouTube or on Twitch watching, jump over to the Facebook chat, jump over to the Discord chat, and the Discord chat has a link in the Facebook group, so make sure you do that. This weekend I'll be at Colts training camp, so I'll post whatever I can. I know you can't do a lot of live video, but I'm going to try to post as much as I can about what's going on. So if you go to rotoheat.com, that will get you where you need to be for everything. You can get to the Discord chat. Rick posted it. rotoheat.com/Discord. That'll get you our Discord server access. If you go to rotoheat.com and sign up, become a subscriber, you can get on the VIP stuff. We're going to be doing some VIP leagues soon. We also have some other VIP specific things going on. If you go to rotoheat.com, we have a giveaway going on. It's still going on now. Our fearless leader is doing a crazy giveaway full of stuff you want. You're getting 6 different T-shirts. You're getting $50 in VIP Roto Heat money to be spent on all sorts of good stuff. So check out rotoheat.com. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. Yes, Rick says $2.99 a month. That's cheap, and that is cheap because for $2.99 a month, you're getting access to some of the brightest minds in the fantasy world. Also some of the silliest minds in the fantasy world and entertaining minds of the fantasy world, but you're getting a lot. You're getting ADP, and as we create new stuff, you're going to get it. Like I said, I've been talking to Rick and working with some of our guys on some specific IDP related statistical breakdowns and things like that, that I won't go into on the stream, but we will roll out soon. We're going to do stuff for Devi. We are doing stuff for the other sports as well. As we get to the fall with hockey and basketball, we're going to start leagues up with that. You want to be a VIP member so you can get in on this stuff. And for $3 a month, I mean,
nothing. Don't
go to Starbucks one day.
That's it. That's not going to Dunkin's one morning. That's
right.
it.
Right, and for $30 a year, you're going to get way more value. I mean, that's just huge. DFS content is going to make you way more than $30, is what Rick says, and that's a true story. So come over to rotoheat.com and join up, be a part of this community. Continue to invite friends. I applaud you guys. We're constantly welcoming new people in the community, like Mike Pace. Every day there's new guys that are joining the site. I mean, I see at least 1 to 2 new people joining the Facebook community every day, and that's huge. Our community is growing. I'm not going to say faster than anyone else's, but it's probably on par with what's going on around the industry. So be a part of something that's that's changing the game. I mean, we got a lot of great guys that. The thing that, and I'm not going to bash specific communities, but the thing that I didn't like about the other fantasy communities that I've been a part of in the past is you have the guys that break rule number one. You've got dicks roaming around these groups, and they're just not very supportive. The thing that's great about Roto Heat's community is that, yes, we don't agree. I mean, Colin and I have not agreed on multiple things tonight. But neither one of us got crazy about it. I mean, we had fun, we joked about it, and all that. And that's what Roto Heat does. I mean, we want to help you make it rain. We want you to be successful. We want you to make money. We want you to have fun. We want you to enjoy your fantasy experience, whether it's football, baseball, basketball.
It's a great place to just have, if you want to hear, the other side of the street respectfully. Every single thing that you can really,
just for you, Rick,
question that you might have, you'll probably get multiple different answers from a lot of different people, and they'll give you respectful reasons why. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be the, someone says this, another guy says it's this, and then all of a sudden it's the, well, you're wrong, and it escalates very quickly.
Right.
That doesn't happen. That's been a thing that, from day one that's made sure that is not going to be a thing. Where, there are a lot of other communities that do that. It can get a little toxic. Rick does his best, and anytime that something like that happens, there is always one of the guys here will always intervene and, deflate the situation and fix it. Because, like you said, it's about everyone enjoying themselves, having fun. It's not about who is always right all the time. Right. I would love to be able to say that I'm right all the time. The Geis versus Barkley argument is an exact example of why I'm not. It happens. Everyone makes mistakes. I felt really confident at the time. I'm eating my words. I'll be the first one to say that I was wrong about it last year. No problem admitting that. I've been right about a couple of these other ones, but some of the big bombs, they don't exactly work out my way. And that's, everyone has takes that don't work out, and it's fine. Everyone makes mistakes. That's part of everybody here. Right. It's part of the Dynasty community is that we all will make bad trades, we'll make mistakes, and you just got to learn from them.
Right. Well, and the other part of it is the availability. I'm constantly getting messages on Twitter of guys, just asking questions, and we shoot the breeze. I mean, shout out to Big Cheese on Twitter. Like, that dude messages me all the time, and we talk trade, and and he asks for advice, and that's what it's all about. It's trying to help guys get better. We're not experts, but we have an opinion. We have a lot of experience behind us. A lot of championships are on this Roto Heat team. I mean, we've done a lot in the fantasy world, so we want to help you and help everybody else that's out there be successful. And we want to, obviously, yes, we want to make money. Like, I would love to quit my day job and just do fantasy sports and host streams and do all this all day long. It'd be wonderful. Right. And that's my goal. Like, I would love to just not work anymore and do this, But the thing about the Roto Heat community is there's a place for everybody, and there's something for everybody. A year ago, I joined the team in July last year. I didn't know Rick. I didn't know any of you guys. I joined the team, and in a year, I mean, I've seen it grow exponentially. We were just a couple hundred people when we started, and it's blown up. I mean, it's growing because of the types of people, the quality of the characters in this group, so. And Rick would love to break even on Roto Heat, so we'll get there, Rick. Eventually, we'll be making money. We'll be making it rain. Yep. So that being said, we've now done a big spiel. Also we'll have an announcement coming soon about a Roto Heat meetup. I know that Rick and I have been trying to find a way to get people together and been trying to get together. So there will be something in the Midwest going on soon, and you will know about that. So just to close out, make sure you guys are checking out all the stuff that's going on Roto Heat. Sully is now in there recording a podcast right now. Who knows what he's going to talk about? Maybe he talks about some of the stuff we talked about tonight. Who knows? But make sure you subscribe in whatever way you receive podcasts, and you'll know when Sully's 2 cents comes out. Same with the Heat Seekers on August 1st and the Dynasty Blockheads and all the other stuff that's going on. Rick says also buy a t-shirt. Oh yeah, we are selling t-shirts right now. I think they're like $18. It's a super sweet deal. $18 gets you a delicious shirt with this lovely Roto Heat logo on there. And when you meet me, I'll sign it for free.
There you go. That's
buy a shirt, you get an autograph.
That's the selling point right there. Everyone will put their name on it. Perfect.
That's it. You get autographs from the Roto Heat team. You buy a shirt.
Absolutely. There you go. Problem solved.
That's it. That's how we sell the shirts, Rick. You've been missing out. You just posted up the shirts. You need to get autographs from the team.
Yeah.
Shadow box it, frame it, because that'll be worth money.
Oh yeah, definitely.
When Roto Heat goes big time.
Absolutely.
Craig says, I hear Area 51 is all the rage for meetups these days.
Oh,
Area
yeah,
51
man.
is, what is it, in September?
They can't stop all of us, right, Craig? They can't stop us all.
They can't stop us all. All right, we got to wrap it up now because it's getting off the chains with this Area 51 nonsense. So thank you, Colin, for joining me. It's good to have you back.
It's glad to be back, man.
We'll talk again probably next week. I'm sure we got lots to talk about. Keep it locked to Roto Heat. We're in camp. We're in full swing. Things are happening, and we're hitting that big time. So we're getting close to the season. Football is around the corner. Next week we've got the Hall of Fame game, and is it next week? Yeah, next week we got the Hall of Fame game, and then and then we're in the full swing. Yep, a week from now.
Yeah.
Yep, because it's normally the Thursday before because they have enshrinement weekend after that. So.
Yep. That's crazy.
Football's here.
We got
people.
7 days.
Hold your pants, people. It's football. So.
It's preseason football, but it's football.
Yeah. Anytime, Mike. Hey, and I know you just joined the community today, but if you need us, tag us. You can tag guys on the Facebook page, post polls.
Discord, DM us right through Twitter, whatever. We got answers to questions.
Mike, jump on all that, and we are here to help you. And because your logo has the University of Michigan, I know you're a smart man, so you'll do well. You'll do very good things here. So. All right, guys, you have a good night. We will see you next week. Football.
It's back. It's basically back. When we talk next week, we might be able to actually recap a preseason game. That's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, we'll be able to watch. We'll be able to watch no-namers playing because they're not going to play anybody of value.
Yeah, I know a lot of those undrafted free agents.
Ooh, next week's going to be the UDFA Super Show. Hi-oh!
Hey, I can do that. We can do it. Talk about Montez Carter for 15 minutes.
Oh my goodness, that's exhausting. I'm already tired thinking about that. I would have to put on my big boy pants to handle UDFA for 2 hours.
Yeah, good luck.
I'd rather talk IDP and deep devies till 4 a.m. That's for sure.
We can go for that one too.
All right, guys. For Colin, this is Brad. You guys have a good night. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.